Remember, actually, it's a little bit closer.
What's up? Just trying to get myself situated here. I had a late dinner. So, give me a second. I am here. What's up, Havoc Squad? Nathan, what's up, man? All right. This is what I want. Picture in picture, automatic. Okay.
Thank you.
Senator Harris and Vice President Pence, thank you for being here. We're meeting as President Trump and the First Lady continue to...
Alrighty, what's up, everybody? Can you guys hear that?
After testing positive for COVID-19. We send our thoughts
What's up, Blue?
and prayers to them.
I didn't eat
for their
dinner, so.
rapid and complete recovery, and for the recovery of everyone afflicted by the coronavirus. The two campaigns and the Commission on Presidential Debates have agreed to the ground rules for tonight. I'm here to enforce them on behalf of the millions of Americans who are watching. One note, no one in either campaign or at the Commission or anywhere else has been told in advance what topics I'll raise.
Me too, guys. Me too. I don't think it will because Trump, Trump, that's his mentality.
9 segments of about 10 minutes each. I'll begin a segment by posing a question to each of you. Sometimes the same question, sometimes a different question on the same topic. You will then have 2 minutes to answer without interruption by me or the other candidate. Then we'll take 6 minutes or so to discuss the issue. At that point, although there will always be more to say, we'll move on to the next topic. We want a debate that is lively, but Americans also deserve a discussion that is civil. These are tumultuous times, but we can and will have a respectful...
What's up, Pranav? Blue, it's always nice to see you, man.
Let's begin with the ongoing pandemic that has cost our country so much. Senator Harris, the coronavirus is not under control. Over the past week, Johns Hopkins reports that 39 states have had more COVID cases over the past 7 days than in the week before. 9 states have set new records. Even if a vaccine is released soon, the next administration will face hard choices. What would a Biden administration do in January and February that a Trump administration wouldn't do? Would you impose new lockdowns for businesses and schools and hotspots, a federal mandate to wear masks. You have 2 minutes to respond without interruption.
Thank you, Susan. Well, the American...
Let me know if you
people
can't hear the
witnessed
debate.
What is the
It's too quiet.
greatest failure of any presidential administration in the history of our country. And here are the facts. 210,000 dead people in our country in just the last several months. Over 7 million people who have contracted this disease. 1 in 5 businesses closed. We're looking at frontline workers who have been treated like sacrificial workers. We are looking at over 30 million people who in the last several months...
Nathan, I've got a little over
lost
40 hours.
employment.
A little over 40
Here's the
hours.
thing. On January 28th, the Vice President and the President were informed
A little
about the
quiet.
nature of this pandemic. They were
Turn it up.
informed that it's lethal in consequence, that it is airborne,
How's that?
that it will affect
doing okay?
young people, and that it would be contracted because it is airborne. And they knew what was happening, and they didn't tell
How's that?
you. Can you
That's as loud as I can
imagine
make
if
it.
you knew on January 28th, as opposed to March 13th, what they knew, what you might have done to prepare? They knew and they covered it up. The president said it was a hoax. They minimized the seriousness of it. The president said, you're on one side of his ledger if you wear a mask, you're on the other side of his ledger if you don't. And in spite of all of that, today they still don't have a
Awesome.
plan.
Sweet, sweet, sweet.
They still don't have a plan. Well, Joe Biden does.
Turn this
And
game
our
sound
plan
down.
is about what we need to do around a national strategy for contact tracing, for testing, for administration of the vaccine, and making sure that it will be free for all. That is the plan that Joe Biden has and that I have, knowing that we have to get a hold of what has been going on, and we need to save our country. And Joe Biden is the best leader to do that, and frankly, this administration has forfeited
Thank you,
their
Senator
right to
Harris.
re-election based on this.
Thank you, Senator Harris. Vice President Pence, more than 210,000 Americans have died of COVID-19 since February. The U.S. death toll as a percentage of our population is higher than that of almost every other wealthy nation on earth. For instance, our death rate is 2.5 times that of Canada next door. You head the administration's coronavirus task force. Why is the U.S. death toll as a percentage of our population higher than that of almost every other wealthy country? And you have 2 minutes to respond without interruption.
See how he answers
Susan,
this one.
thank you. And I want to thank the Commission and the University of Utah for hosting this event. And Senator Harris, it's a privilege to be on the stage with you.
Wow, very different than
Our
Trump.
nation has gone through a very
Immediately.
challenging time this year. But I want the American people to know
I wonder if they're going to do good
that
cop,
from the
bad
very
cop.
first day, President Donald Trump has put the health of America first. Before there were more than 5 cases in the United States, all people who had returned from China, President Donald Trump did what no other American president had ever done. And that was he suspended all travel from China, the second largest economy in the world. Now, Senator Joe Biden opposed that decision. He said it was xenophobic and hysterical. But I can tell you, having led the White House Coronavirus Task Force, that that decision alone by President Trump bought us invaluable time to stand up the greatest national mobilization since World War II. And I believe it saved hundreds of thousands of American lives. Because with that time, we were able to reinvent testing. More than 115 million tests have been done to date. We were able to see to the delivery of billions of supplies so our doctors and nurses had the resources and support they needed. And we began, really, before the month of February was out, to develop a vaccine and to develop medicines and therapeutics that have been saving lives all along the way. And under President Trump's leadership, Operation Warp Speed, we believe, will have literally
Mr.
tens
Chang,
of
what's
millions
up?
of doses of a vaccine before the end of this year. The reality is, when you look at the Biden plan, it reads an awful
Just
lot.
because they had pre-existing
like what
conditions
President
doesn't
Trump and I and our
necessarily
task force have been doing
discount their
every
deaths from the
step
virus,
of
though,
the
right?
way. I mean, quite frankly, when I look at their plan that talks about advancing testing, creating new PPE, developing a vaccine, it looks a little bit like plagiarism, which is something Joe Biden knows a little bit about. And I think the American people know that this is a president who has put the
Thank you,
health
Vice
of America first, and the American people, I believe with my heart, can be
Thank you,
proud
Vice
of the
President Pence.
sacrifices they have made. It's saved
Thank you,
countless
Vice
American
President
lives.
Senator Harris, would you like to respond?
Absolutely. Whatever the vice
Haxwell.
president is claiming the administration has done,
You said
clearly
you
it
can't
hasn't
get
worked.
hurt from the coronavirus because you're
When you're
built
looking at
different.
over 210,000
Actually, there's some evidence
dead bodies in
to
our
show that
country,
people of
American lives that
European
have been
descent
lost,
that have
families that are
Neanderthal
grieving that
genes,
loss.
Neanderthal DNA, are
And you
more
know,
susceptible to coronavirus than
The
people of
vice president
Eastern
is the head
Asian
of the task
descent,
force
which don't have Neanderthal DNA.
and knew
So you
on
might be right
January
there,
28th
at least
how
compared
serious
to,
this was. And then thanks to Bob Woodward,
Neanderthals like me.
we learned that they knew about it. And then when that was exposed, the vice president said, when asked, well, why didn't y'all tell anybody? He said, because the president wanted people to remain calm.
Well, let's get.
No, but Susan, this is important.
Susan, I
I
have
want
to
to add,
weigh
but
in
if,
here.
Mr. Vice President, I'm speaking.
I have to
I'm
weigh in.
speaking.
Yeah, you
So
have
I
15 more
wanna-
seconds, and then we'll give the vice president
Thank
a
you.
chance to
So I
speak.
wanna
Kamala
ask
Harris
the American
stronger than Biden
How calm were
in
you
that
when you were
rejection of
panicked about
Pence.
where you're going to get your next roll of toilet paper? How calm were you when your kids were sent home from school and you didn't know when they could go back? How calm
Thank
were
you.
you
Thank
when
you,
your
Senator
children
Harris.
couldn't see your parents because you were afraid they could kill them?
Let's give Vice President Pence a chance to respond. Vice President Pence, you have 1 minute to
You know,
respond.
there's not a day gone by that I haven't thought of every American family that's lost a loved one. And I want all of you to know that you'll always be in our hearts and in our prayers. But when you say what the American people have done over these last 8 months
I agree,
hasn't
Shemaiah.
worked, that's a great disservice to the sacrifices the American people have made.
I'm referring
The
to you,
reality,
President.
if I may finish, Senator, the reality is Dr. Fauci said everything that he told the president in the Oval Office, the president told the American people. Now, President Trump, I will tell you, has boundless confidence in the American people, and he always spoke with confidence that we'd get through this together. But when you say it hasn't worked, when Dr. Fauci and Dr. Birx and our medical experts came to us in the second week of March, they said if the president didn't take the unprecedented step of shutting down roughly half of the American economy, that we could lose 2.2 million Americans. Now, that's the reality.
Thank you.
They also
Thank you,
said
Vice
to us if we
President
did
Pence.
everything right, Susan, we could still lose more than 200,000 Americans.
Vice
Now,
President
one
Pence.
life lost is too
Thank you.
many, Susan. But the American people, I believe, deserve credit for the sacrifices that they have made, putting the health of their family and their neighbors first, our doctors, our nurses, our first
Thank you, Vice
responders.
President Pence.
And I'm going to speak up on behalf of what the American people have done.
Vice President Pence, you were in the front row in a Rose Garden event 11 days ago at what seems to have been a super spreader event for senior administration and congressional officials. No social distancing, few masks, and now a cluster of coronavirus cases among those who were there. How can you expect Americans to follow the administration's safety guidelines to protect themselves from COVID when you at the White House have not been doing so?
Well, the American people have demonstrated over the last 8 months that when given the facts, they're willing to put the health of their families and their neighbors and people they don't even know first. President Trump and I have great confidence in the American people and their ability to take that information and put it into practice. In the height of the epidemic, when we were losing a heartbreaking number of 2,500 Americans a day, we surged resources to New Jersey and New York and New Orleans and Detroit. We told the American people what needed to be done, and the American people made the sacrifices. When the outbreak in the Sun Belt happened this summer, again, Americans stepped forward. But the reality is the work of the President of the United States goes on. A vacancy on the Supreme Court of the United States has come upon us, and the President introduced Judge Amy Coney
Yes,
Barrett.
thank you. Thank you, Vice
But
President
at
Pence.
that, if I may say, that Rose Garden event, there's been a great deal of speculation about it. My wife Karen and I were there and honored to be there. Many of the people who were at that event, Susan, actually were tested
Yes.
for coronavirus, and it was an outdoor event, which all of our scientists regularly and routinely advise. The difference here is President Trump and I trust the American people to make choices in the best interest of their health. Joe Biden and Kamala Harris consistently talk about mandates, and not just mandates with the coronavirus, but a government takeover of health care,
Thank you. Thank
the
you, Vice
Green New
President Pence.
Deal, all government control. We're about freedom and respecting the freedom of the American people.
Let's talk about respecting the American people. You respect the American people when you tell them the truth. You respect the American people when you have the courage
Which we've
to be a
always
leader,
done.
speaking of those things that you may not want people to hear, but they need to hear so they can protect themselves. But this administration stood on information that if you had as a parent, if you had as a worker, knowing you didn't have enough money saved up, and now you're standing in a food line because of the ineptitude of an administration that was unwilling to speak the truth to the American people. So let's talk about caring about the American people. The American people have had to sacrifice far too much because of the incompetence of this administration. It is asking too much of the people.
Susan, we talked
No,
about
Vice
It is
President
asking too much of the people.
Let-
That they would not be equipped with the information they need to help themselves to protect
Susan,
their
the
parents
President-
and
No,
their
I'm
children.
sorry. Kamala Harris, Senator Harris, I'm sorry.
It's fine, I'm Kamala.
No, you're Senator Harris to me. For life to get back to normal, Dr. Anthony Fauci and other experts say that most of the people who can be vaccinated need to be vaccinated. But half of Americans now say they wouldn't take a vaccine if it was released now. If the Trump administration approves a vaccine before or after the election, should Americans take it, and would you take it?
If the public health professionals, if Dr. Fauci, if the doctors tell us that we should take it, I'll be the first in line to take it, absolutely. But if Donald Trump tells us that we should take it, I'm not taking it.
Vice President Pence, there have been a lot of repercussions from this pandemic. In recent days, the president's diagnosis of COVID-19 has underscored the importance of the job that you
So
hold
far, I like
and that you are
Kamala
seeking.
Harris's.
That's our second
feistiness.
topic tonight. It's the role of the vice president. One of you will make history on January
being
20th.
strong,
You will
but
be the
not, like,
vice
too
president to
aggressive.
the oldest president the United States has ever had. Donald Trump will be 74 years old on Inauguration Day. Joe Biden will be 78 years old. That already has raised concerns among some voters, concerns that have been sharpened by President Trump's hospitalization in recent days. Vice President Pence, have you had a conversation or reached an agreement with President Trump about safeguards or procedures when it comes to the issue of presidential disability? And if not, do you think you should? You have 2 minutes without interruption.
Well, Susan, thank you, although I would like to go back.
I think we need to move on
well,
to the
thank
issue
you,
of
but I would like to
vice
go back
presidency.
because the reality is that we're going to have a vaccine, Senator, in record time, in
What's up,
unheard
Abhinav?
of time, in less than a year.
How you doing, man?
We have 5 companies in phase 3 clinical trials, and we're right now producing tens of millions of doses. So the fact that you continue to undermine public confidence in a vaccine, if the vaccine emerges during the Trump administration, I think is unconscionable. And Senator, I just ask you, stop playing politics with people's lives. The reality is that we will have a vaccine, we believe, before the end of this year. And it will have the capacity to save countless American lives. And your continuous undermining of confidence in a vaccine is just, it's just unacceptable. And let me also say, you know, the reality is when you talk about failure in this administration, we actually do know what failure looks like in a pandemic. It was 2009. The swine flu arrived in the United States. Thankfully, it ended up not being as lethal as the coronavirus. But before the end of the year, when Joe Biden was vice president of the United States, not 7.5 million people contracted the swine flu. 60 million Americans contracted the swine flu. If the swine flu had been as lethal as the coronavirus, in 2009, when Joe Biden was vice president, we would have lost 2 million American lives. His own chief of staff, Ron Klain, would say last year that it was pure luck that they did, quote, everything possible wrong. And we learned from that. They left the strategic national stockpile empty. They left an empty and hollow plan, but we
Thank you,
still
Vice
learned
President
from it.
Pence.
And I think
Vice
the
President
American
Pence, your
people,
time is
I'm going
up.
to say again, can be
Vice
proud
President Pence, I'm sorry,
of
your
what
time
we
is
have
up.
done. And Senator, please
Thank you, Vice
stop
President
undermining
Pence.
confidence in a vaccine.
Senator Harris, let me ask you the same question that I asked
Sure.
Vice President Pence, which is, have you had a conversation or reached an agreement with Vice President Biden about safeguards or procedures when it comes to the issue of presidential disability? And if not, and if you win the election next month, do you think you should? You have 2 minutes uninterrupted.
So let me tell you, first of all, the day I got the call from Joe Biden, it was actually a Zoom call, asking me to serve with him on this ticket was probably one of the most memorable days of my life. I thought about my mother, who came to the United States at the age of 19, gave birth to me at the age of 25 at Kaiser Hospital in Oakland, California. And the thought that I'd be sitting here right now, I know would make her proud, and she must be looking down on this. Joe and I were raised in a very similar way. We were raised with values that are about hard work, about the value and the dignity of public service, and about the importance of fighting for the dignity of all people. And I think Joe asked me to serve with him because, I have a career that included being elected the first woman district attorney of San Francisco, where I created models of innovation for law enforcement in terms of reform of the criminal justice system. I was elected the first woman of color and black woman to be elected Attorney General of the state of California, where I ran the second largest Department of Justice in the United States, second only to the United States Department of Justice. And there I took on everything from transnational criminal organizations to the big banks that were taking advantage of homeowners, to for-profit colleges that were taking advantage of veterans. And then, of course, now I serve in the United States Senate as only the second black woman ever elected to the United States Senate. I serve on the Senate Intelligence Committee, where I've been in regular receipt of classified information about threats to our nation and hotspots around the world. I've traveled the world. I've met with our soldiers in war zones. And I think Joe has asked me to serve with him because he knows that we share a purpose which is about lifting up the American people. And after the 4 years that we have seen of Donald Trump unifying our country around our common values and principles.
Thank you, Senator Harris.
Nathan, I don't know. I don't have any idea about
timeline.
timeline. I've heard various things. I mean, Trump said by December, but I don't know if you can really believe that based off his
and in recent days,
history
President
of
Trump's
not being
doctors
so
have given
truthful,
misleading answers
and
or
maybe
refused
trying
to answer basic
to
questions about his health.
overextend what's
And my
possible.
question to each of you in turn
Normally, a
is
vaccine
this
take about a year and a half,
information
right? So,
voters
and I believe work
deserve
started on
to
them
know?
in
Vice President
as
Pence,
soon
would
as
you
possible, like in
Well,
March-ish.
Susan, thank you.
So
And
you would hope by
and let
summer
me
2021,
on behalf of the president,
but I don't know.
and the
It's
First
hard to
Lady,
know. I don't know
how
enough.
moved we've all been.
I am eating
by the
rice.
outpouring of
It's
Prayers and
stir fry
concern.
actually. I got some
the
rice, some
president.
tofu, and some
And I do believe
stir
it's
fried veggies.
emblematic of the prayers and the
My
concern that
dinner.
are ushered forth for every American impacted by the coronavirus. But the care the president received at Walter Reed Hospital, the White House doctors, was exceptional. And the transparency that they practiced all along the way will continue. The American people have a right to know about the health and well-being of their president, and will continue to do that. But I'm just extremely grateful and was more than a little moved by the broad and bipartisan support. And Senator, I want to thank you and Joe Biden for your expressions of genuine concern. And I also want to congratulate you, as I did on that phone call, on the historic nature of your nomination.
Thank you.
I never expected to be on this stage 4 years ago, so I know the feeling. But the reality is we've got an election before the American people in the midst of this challenging year. And the stakes have never been higher, but I think the choice has never been clearer.
I want to give Senator Harris a chance to respond to the same question I asked, which is, do voters have a right to know more detailed health information about presidential candidates, and especially about presidents, especially when they're facing some kind of challenge?
Absolutely, and that's why Joe Biden has been so incredibly transparent, and certainly by contrast, the president has not, both in terms of health records, but also let's look at taxes. We now know, because of great investigative journalism, that Donald Trump paid $750 in taxes. When I first heard about it, I literally said, "You mean $750,000? And it was like, no, $750. We now know Donald Trump owes and is in debt for $400 million. And just so everyone is clear, when we say in debt, it means you owe money to somebody. And it'd be really good to know who the President of the United States, the Commander-in-Chief, owes money to, because the American people have a right to know What is influencing the president's decisions? And is he making those decisions
good
on the
point.
best interest of the American people, of you,
Good point.
or self-interest? So, Susan, I'm glad you asked about transparency, because it has to be across the board. Joe has been incredibly transparent over many, many years. The one thing we all know about Joe, he puts it all out there. He is honest, he is forthright. But Donald Trump, on the other hand, has been about covering up everything.
Thank you, Senator Harris. I want to give you a chance to respond, Vice President.
Well, look, I respect the fact that Joe Biden spent 47 years in public life. I respect your public service as well.
Thank you.
The American people have a president who's a businessman, he's a job creator, who's paid tens of millions of dollars in taxes, payroll taxes.
Mr. Chang,
property
sorry, I
taxes.
didn't
He's
see your
created
little
tens
note
of
there.
thousands of American
I
jobs.
get it. I understand
The
sympathizing
president
with
said
veterans.
those
It's really
public
rough.
reports are not accurate.
It is pretty rough for them
The
out there.
president's also released literally stacks of financial disclosures. The
It's
American
kind of
people
crazy
can
just how much
review just as
percentage
the
of
law
homeless
allows. But
population that they
the
make up.
distinction here is that Joe Biden, 47 years in public service, compared to President Donald Trump, who brought all of that experience 4 years ago.
Thank you,
and
Vice
turned
President.
this economy around by cutting taxes, rolling back regulation,
Thank you,
unleashing
Vice
American
President
energy,
Pence.
fighting for free and fair trade, and all of that's
Thank
on
you,
the
Vice
line
President
if Joe
Pence.
Biden and Kamala Harris.
You know, that's a
the
good
way.
segue into our third
great
topic,
segue.
which is about the economy. This has been another aspect of life for Americans that's been so affected by this coronavirus. We have a jobs crisis brewing. On Friday, we learned that the unemployment rate had declined to 7.9% in September, but the job growth had stalled, and that was before the latest round of layoffs and furloughs in the airline industry at Disney and elsewhere. Hundreds of thousands of discouraged workers have stopped looking for work. Nearly 11 million jobs that existed at the beginning of the year
I love how we
haven't
can't
been
actually see the
replaced.
moderator's
Those
face.
hardest hit include
She's
Latinos,
just
blacks, and
I
women.
kind of like it because
Senator
it doesn't
Harris,
put a lot
the
of focus.
Biden-Harris campaign has proposed
on the
new programs
moderator.
to boost the economy, and you would pay for that new spending by raising $4 trillion in taxes on wealthy individuals and corporations.
But I think she's doing an okay job
Some
so far.
economists warn that could curb entrepreneurial ventures that fuel growth and create jobs. Would raising taxes put the recovery at risk? And you have 2 minutes to answer uninterrupted.
Thank you. On the issue of the economy, I think there couldn't be a more
Yeah,
fundamental.
Nathan, you didn't see that? The
between Donald
his
Trump
taxes
and Joe
got
Biden.
leaked.
Joe Biden
And,
believes you measure the health and
so-
the strength of America's economy based on
You
the
can't really
health
judge
and the
based off
strength
the amount of
the
taxes
American
that you
worker
pay, I don't think.
and the American
because
family.
there's a lot of
On the other hand, you
tax
have
law
Donald
that
Trump,
allows you to
who measures
deduct a
the
lot of
strength
things.
of the
so forgive-
economy based on
There's
how
a lot of
rich people are
loopholes
doing.
and ways that you can
Which is why
actually
he
make your
passed
taxes
a tax
lower
bill
in a legitimate
benefiting
way.
the top 1%
But I
and the
think
biggest
there's some funny
corporations of
business with his
America,
taxes in
leading
particular,
to
and that he
a $2 trillion
used,
deficit that the American
like
people are gonna have
investment
to pay for.
losses to offset
On day
personal
one, Joe Biden will repeal
losses
that
or
tax
something like
bill.
that. Something
He'll get
weird.
rid
There's
of
like a
it.
lot of weird tax
And
stuff
what
that
he'll
I don't
do
know
with the
enough
money
about.
is
But
invest it
apparently
in the
there's some
American people.
fraudulency.
And through
on
a
his
plan
part.
that is about investing in
And
infrastructure,
the fact that he owes a
something
lot
that
of money
Donald
is a
Trump
real
said he
problem.
would do. I remember hearing
Right? You
about
don't want to have a
infrastructure
president of the
week. I
United
don't think
States
it ever
who's in
happened.
debt $400
But
million
Joe Biden will do that. He'll invest in
to
infrastructure.
somebody.
It's about
Because
upgrading our
then
roads and bridges,
obviously
but
that
also
person's going to ask for
investing
favors
in clean energy
and
and renewable energy. Joe is going to invest that money in what we need to do around innovation. There was a time when our country believed in science and invested in research and development so that we were an innovation leader on the globe. Joe Biden will use that
oh my
money to
God, I
invest
need
in education.
so many solar panels to
So
get
for
this debt.
example, for folks who want
I
to go
need
to a two-year
11
community college, it will be free.
11
if you come from a
megawatts.
family that makes less than
And each solar panel gives me
$125,000,
60
you'll go to a
kilowatts.
public university
What is
for
that
free.
math?
And across the board, we'll make sure that if you have student loan debt, it's cut by $10,000. That's how Joe Biden thinks about the economy, which is it's about investing in the people of our country as opposed to passing a tax bill, which had the benefit of letting American corporations go offshore to do their business.
Thank you,
You're
Senator
welcome.
Harris. Vice President Pence, your administration has been predicting a rapid and robust recovery, but the latest economic report suggests that's not happening. Should Americans be braced for an economic comeback that is going to take not months, but a year or more? You have 2 minutes to answer uninterrupted.
When President Trump and I took office, America had gone through the
How
slowest
many
economic
kilowatts are in a
recovery since the
megawatt?
Great
Is that
Depression.
100?
It's when Joe Biden was vice president, they tried to tax and spend and regulate and bail our way back to a growing
It's
economy.
1,000, huh? 1,000.
President Trump cut taxes across the board. Despite what Senator Harris says, the average American family of four had $2,000 in savings in taxes. And with the rise in wages that occurred, most predominantly for blue-collar, hardworking Americans, the average household income for a family of four increased by $4,000 following President Trump's tax cuts. But America, you just heard Senator Harris tell you, on day one, Joe Biden's going to raise your taxes. It's really remarkable to think, Susan. I mean, right after a time where we're going through a pandemic that lost 22 million jobs at the height, we've already added back 11.6 million jobs because we had a president who cut taxes, rolled back regulation, unleashed American energy, fought for free and fair trade, and secured $4 trillion from the Congress of the United States to give direct payments to families, saved 50 million jobs through the Paycheck Protection Program. We literally have spared no expense to help the American people and the American worker through this. Joe Biden and Kamala Harris want to raise taxes. They want to bury our economy under a $2 trillion Green New Deal, which you were one of the original co-sponsors of in the United States Senate. They want to abolish fossil fuels and ban fracking, which would cost hundreds of thousands of American jobs all across the heartland. And Joe Biden wants to go back to the economic surrender to China, that when we took office, half of our international trade deficit was with China alone. And Joe Biden wants to repeal all of the tariffs that President Trump put into effect to fight for American jobs and American workers. Joe Biden says democracy's on the ballot. Make no mistake about it, Susan. The American economy, the American comeback is on the ballot with 4 more years of growth
Thank you,
and
sir.
opportunity,
Thank you,
4
Vice
more years of President Donald Trump. 2021
Thank
is
you,
going to
Vice
be the
President
biggest
Pence.
economic year in the history of this country.
Thank you, Vice President Pence. Senator Harris?
Well, I mean, I thought we saw enough of it in last week's debate, but I think this is supposed to be a
American
debate based on
businesses
facts.
usually go
And the
overseas
truth and the fact is,
due
Joe
to
Biden has
cheaper
been very
labor
clear. He
in
will
other
not
places.
raise taxes on anybody who makes less than $400,000
Right, so
Cities
it's,
a
don't
year.
repeal the Trump tax
a
cuts.
factory
Mr. Vice President,
in
I'm speaking.
China is going to be much cheaper to run
I'm speaking.
and hire
important is you said the
workers than
truth.
it is in the U.S. So
Joe
the
Biden
overhead
said
of a
twice
company
in
will
the
be
debate
cheaper.
last
That's
week
one of
that
the
he's
main
gonna
reasons.
repeal the
Taxes
Trump
might be
tax
another
cuts.
reason too.
That was tax cuts that gave the average working family $2,000 in a tax break every single year.
That is
Senator, that's the math.
absolutely not true. That
Is he
tax
only
bill-
cutting? Is he only going to repeal part of the Trump tax cuts?
If you don't mind letting me finish, we can then
Please.
have a conversation, okay?
Please.
Yeah, Nathan, the point of Factorio is basically to
Joe
build
Biden
a
will
giant
not raise
factory
taxes on anyone who makes less
to
than
eventually be able to
$400,000.
create
He has been very
a
clear
rocket
about
ship
that.
to launch
Joe
off of
Biden
the
will not
planet.
end
It's like
fracking.
you're supposed to be
He's
like a
been very clear
stranded
about that.
astronaut who crash landed here.
Joe Biden
And so you have to start by
is
mining
the
for
one
resources
who,
and build a
during
factory
the
that eventually
Great
creates
Recession,
a
was
spaceship that gets you
responsible
can launch
for the
to like launch a
Recovery Act
satellite into space.
that
I
brought
think.
America back. And now the Trump-Pence administration wants to take credit when they rode the coattails of Joe Biden's success for the economy that they had at the beginning of their term. Of course, now the economy is a complete disaster. But Joe Biden, on the one hand, did that. On the other hand, you have Donald Trump, who has reigned over a recession that is being compared to the Great Depression. On the one hand, you have Joe Biden, who was responsible with President Barack Obama for the Affordable Care Act, which brought health care to over 20 million Americans and protected people with pre-existing conditions. And what it also did is it saved those families who otherwise were going
What's up,
bankrupt
Nyanika?
because
Thanks
of
for
hospital
dropping
bills
in.
they could not afford.
Hope you're doing
On
well,
the other
too.
hand, you have Donald Trump, who's in court right now, trying to get rid of
Thank you, Senator
trying to
Harris.
get rid
have
of
class in a
the
few? That's a
Affordable
late
Care Act,
class.
which means that
6:30.
you will lose protections if you
What kind
have
of night
pre-existing
classes you got
conditions.
going
And I
on,
just
huh?
this is very important, Susan.
Yes,
and it's
but
important.
we need to give Vice President.
I'd
Pence a
just like
chance
to,
to
he
respond.
interrupted me, and I'd like to just finish, please. If you have a pre-existing condition, heart disease, diabetes, breast cancer, they're coming for you. If you love someone who has a pre-existing
nonsense.
condition,
Thank you. Thank
they're
you, Senator
coming for
Harris.
you. If you are under the age of 26 on your parents' coverage, they're coming for you.
Senator Harris, thank you.
You're
Let
welcome.
me give you a chance to respond.
Well, I hope we have a chance to talk about health care because Obamacare was a disaster. The American people remember it well. And President Trump and I have a plan to improve health care and to protect pre-existing conditions for every American. But look, Senator Harris, you're entitled to your own opinion, but you're not entitled to your own facts. You yourself said on
Where have I heard that
multiple
line
occasions
before?
when you were running for president
Who said that
that
line?
you would ban
I've heard that
fracking.
before.
Joe Biden
You're
looked at
entitled to your own
supporter in the
opinion,
eye and
but you're
pointed
not
and
entitled
said,
to your own facts."
I guarantee that we will abolish fossil fuels. They have a $2 trillion version of the Green New Deal, Susan, that your newspaper, USA Today, said really wasn't that very different from the original Green New Deal. More taxes, more regulation, banning fracking, abolishing fossil fuel, crushing American energy, and economic surrender to China is a prescription for economic decline. President Trump and I will keep America growing. The V-shaped recovery that's underway right now will continue with 4 more years of President Donald Trump. In the White House.
Thank you very, very much, Vice President Pence. Once again, you've provided the perfect segue to a new topic, which is climate change.
Here we go.
And Vice President
Here we
Pence,
go.
I'd like to
Something I
pose the
actually
first
understand.
question to you.
I feel like a lot of them in
This
debates
year
are
we've
talking about
seen
like
record-setting
foreign policy and
hurricanes in the south.
like economy,
Another
and
one,
I'm like,
Hurricane Delta, is now
sure.
threatening the Gulf. And we have seen record-setting wildfires in the West. Do you believe, as the scientific community has concluded, that man-made climate change has made wildfires bigger, hotter, and more
Oh
deadly?
God, Yannicka.
And have made hurricanes
A
wetter,
3-hour OChem lab
slower,
at night.
and more
Good
damaging. You have 2 minutes
luck.
uninterrupted.
Thank you, Susan. Well, first, I'm
OChem's
very
kind of
proud
fun,
of
though.
our record
I'll
on
be
the environment
honest.
and on conservation. According to all of the best estimates, our air and land are cleaner than any time ever recorded. Our water is among the cleanest in the world.
That's true.
And just a little
In
while
the
ago,
US.
the president signed the Outdoors
because we
Act,
ship
the
all our stuff
largest
to
investment
other
in our
places.
public lands and public parks in 100 years. So President Trump has made a commitment to conservation.
Oh, you're right. It's a remote
Now,
labs.
with regard to
Those
climate
must
change,
suck.
the climate is changing. But the issue is, what's the cause and what do we do about it? President Trump has made it clear that we're going to continue to listen to the science. Now, Joe Biden and Kamala Harris would put us back in the Paris Climate Accord. They'd impose the Green New Deal,
Copper plates.
which would crush American energy, would increase the energy costs of American families in their homes, and literally would crush American jobs. And President Trump and I believe that the progress that we have made in a cleaner environment has been happening precisely because we have a strong free market
So
economy.
you have to understand the problem
You know,
that
what's
Pence is talking about
remarkable
right now is
the
he's talking
United
about
States has
clean environment in the
reduced
U.S.
CO2
He's not talking about climate change,
more
which is a global
than the
issue.
countries that are still in the Paris Climate Accord.
Carbon
We've
dioxide
done it
emissions
through
don't pollute
innovation,
water.
And we've done it through natural gas and fracking, which, Senator, the American people can go look at the record. I know Joe Biden says otherwise now, as you do, but the both of you repeatedly committed to abolishing fossil fuel and banning fracking. And so by creating the kind of American innovation, we're actually steering toward a stronger and better environment. With regard to wildfires,
The amount of solar
President
panels
Trump
I'm
and I
gonna
believe
holy-
that forest management has to be front and center, and even Governor Gavin Newsom from your state has agreed we've got to work on forest management. And with regard to hurricanes,
Bye, Yannicka.
the National
luck.
Oceanic Administration tells us that actually as difficult as they are,
Thank you, Vice President.
there are no more hurricanes today than
Thank
there
you.
were 100 years ago.
Thank you.
But many of the climate alarmists
President
That's
Pence,
use
true.
Secretary
They're not
hurricanes and
necessarily more
wildfire
hurricanes. They just
to
happen to
try and
be
Thank
sell
you,
their
Vice
bill of
President.
more
goods
intense.
of a Green New Deal.
Typically, their
President Trump and I are
strength
gonna
is like
always put
instead of
American
category
jobs,
4s,
American
we do more
workers
category
first.
5s.
Senator Harris,
Because
as
the
the
temperatures,
Vice President
water's
mentioned, you
warmer,
co-sponsored
creates a
the
more
Green New
intense
Deal in
hurricane.
Congress. But Vice President Biden said in last week's debate that he
what I
does
need.
not support the Green New Deal. But if you look at the Biden-Harris campaign website, it describes the Green New Deal as a crucial framework. What exactly would be the stance of a Biden-Harris administration toward the Green New Deal? You have 2 minutes uninterrupted.
Sure. So first of all, I will repeat, and the American people know,
So Abhinav,
that Joe
I think
Biden
with the whole
will
idea
not
of
ban
cutting
fracking.
fossil
That
fuels,
is a
it's
fact.
like you
That is a
can't just
fact.
overnight
I will
stop using
repeat
coal, oil, and
that
gas
Joe
because
Biden
that's
has
just
been
not a
very
recipe
clear
for success because
that
your
he
economy will
thinks
kind of
about
collapse. You have to
growing
have something in
jobs,
place
which is
to
why he
replace
will
it.
not increase
So it needs to be a
taxes for anyone who makes
slow
less than
transition
$400,000 a year.
where you slowly like
Joe Biden's economic
wean
plan,
off of fossil fuels and
Moody's,
replace them
which
with
is a
technologies like
reputable Wall
wind,
Street firm,
solar.
has said
I
to
would say
create 7
nuclear, but
million more
nuclear is not
jobs
going to happen if
than
people are too
Donald
scared of it.
Trump's. And part of those jobs that will be created by Joe Biden are going to be
So I
about
don't know.
clean
We'd have to.
energy
The
and
plan would have
renewable
to
energy.
include some sort of a slow
Because you
transition
see,
over the course of
Joe understands
some number of
that
decades.
the west coast of our country is burning, including my home state of California. Joe sees what is happening on the Gulf states, which are being battered by storms. Joe has seen and talked with the farmers in Iowa, whose entire crops have been destroyed because of floods. And so Joe believes, again, in science. I'll tell you something, Susan. I served, when I first got to the Senate, on the committee that's responsible for the environment. Do you know this administration took the word science off the website
That's true.
and then took the phrase climate change off
They
the
did.
website?
They did.
We have
They
seen
did.
a pattern with this administration, which is they don't believe in science.
Absolutely did.
And
I
Joe's
remember that
plan
when Trump
is
got in. I
about
looked at
saying
the
we're gonna
EPA
deal with
website and
it,
it was
but we're
like
also gonna
this
create
pages
jobs.
were being deleted.
Donald
What
Trump,
the
when
heck?
asked about the wildfires in California, and the question was, the science is telling us this. You know what Donald Trump said? Science doesn't know. So let's talk about who is prepared to lead our country over the course of the next 4 years on what is an existential threat to us as human beings. Joe is about saying we're going to invest that in renewable energy. It's going to be about the creation of millions of jobs. We will achieve net zero emissions by 2050, carbon neutral by 2035. Joe has a plan. This has been a lot of talk from the Trump administration, and really it has been to go backward
Did you
instead
miss
of forward.
much?
We will also re-enter
no,
the
it's been a
climate
relatively civil
agreement with
debate.
pride.
Senator Harris just said that climate change is an existential threat.
Nothing
Vice
crazy.
President Pence, do you believe that climate change poses an existential threat?
As I said, Susan, the climate is
Stevie
changing.
pivots
We'll follow
on
the
this question.
science. But once again, Senator Harris
Accumulator.
is denying the fact that they're going to raise taxes on every American. Joe Biden said twice in the debate last week that on day one he was going to repeal the Trump tax cuts. Those tax cuts delivered $2,000 in tax relief to the average family of four across America. And with regard to banning fracking, I just recommend that people look at the record. You yourself said repeatedly that you would ban fracking. You were the first Senate co-sponsor of the Green New Deal. And while Joe Biden denied the Green New Deal, Susan, thank you for pointing out, the Green New Deal is on their campaign website. And as USA Today said, it's essentially the same plan as you co-sponsored with AOC when she submitted
That's
it
true,
in the Senate.
Akash.
And you just heard the senator say that
True.
she's going to resubmit America to the Paris Climate Accord. Look, the American people have always cherished our environment. We'll continue to cherish it. We've made great progress reducing CO2 emissions through American innovation and the development of natural gas through fracking. We don't need a massive $2 trillion Green New Deal that would impose all new mandates on American businesses and American families.
Thank you.
Joe Biden wants us
Thank
to
you, Vice
retrofit
President Pence.
4 million
Thank you, Vice
American
President
business
Pence.
buildings. It makes no sense. It will cost jobs. President Trump
Thank
is
you,
going to
Vice
put
President
America
Pence.
first. He's going to put jobs first, and we're going to take care of our environment and follow the science.
Thank you,
But,
Vice
on
President
the
Pence.
issue of jobs,
Senator Harris.
let's talk about that. The vice president referred to, as part of what he thinks is an accomplishment, the president's trade war with China. You lost that trade war. You lost it. What ended up happening is because of a so-called trade war with China, America lost 300,000 manufacturing jobs. Farmers have experienced bankruptcy because of it. We are in a manufacturing recession because of it. And when we look at where this administration has been, there are estimates that by the end of the term of this administration, they will have lost more jobs than almost any other presidential administration. And the American people know what I'm talking about. You know, I think about 20-year-olds. You know, we have a 20-year-old, a 20-something-year-old, who are coming out of high school and college right now, and you're wondering, is there going to be a job there for me? We're looking at people who are trying to figure out how they're going to pay rent by the end of the month. Almost half of American renters are worried about whether they're going to be able to pay rent by the end of the month. This is where the economy is in America right now, and it is because of the catastrophe and the failure of leadership of this administration.
Thank you, Senator Harris. Vice President Pence, let me give you just 15 seconds to respond, because then I want to move on to our
Well,
next.
I'd love to respond. Look, lost the trade war with China, Joe Biden never fought it. Joe Biden has been a cheerleader for communist China over the last several decades. And again, Senator Harris, you're entitled to your opinion. You're not entitled to your own facts. When Joe Biden was vice president, we lost 200,000 manufacturing jobs. And President Obama said they were never coming back. He said we needed a magic wand to bring them back.
Oh, baby.
In our first 3 years
Look
after
at
we
these
cut
arms. They're
taxes,
going
rolled back
lightning
regulation,
speed now.
unleashed American energy,
Oh,
this
yeah.
administration saw 500,000
Thank you, Vice
manufacturing
President
jobs
Pence.
created. And that's exactly the kind of growth we're going to continue to see as we bring our nation through
Thank you, Vice
this
President
pandemic.
Pence.
But a Green New
Thank you,
Deal, your
Vice
massive
President
new
Pence.
mandates, your Paris Climate Accord, it's going to kill jobs this time, just like it killed jobs.
I'd like
Susan,
to-
I just need to respond very briefly,
15
please.
seconds, and
Thank
then
you.
we'll move
Thank
on.
you. Joe Biden is responsible for saving
at
America's
these
auto
babies move.
industry, and you voted against it.
It was because I had no
So let's
power.
set
They
the
were all
record
super slow
straight.
before.
Thank you.
This is going to
I'd
really
like to talk
ramp up my
about
production
China.
here.
We have, as our next topic, we have
Now
no
we're
more
humming.
complicated or consequential foreign relationship
I need
than
more,
the one
solar
with
panels, though.
China. It is a huge market for American agricultural
Need more
goods.
power.
It's a potential
See, I'm
partner
going
in
Green
dealing
New
with
Deal on
climate
this
change in
factory.
North
I'm
Korea.
transitioning
And in a video
from my
tonight, President
coal-based
Trump again blamed it
steam
for the
engines
coronavirus, saying China will
to the
pay.
purity
Vice President Pence,
and the
how would you describe our,
simplicity of
our
solar
fundamental
power
relationship with
solar
China?
panels. But see, I have to do a slow transition. though.
adversaries,
I can't
enemies?
just do it all at once.
You have 2 minutes.
Thank you, Susan. Well, before I leave that, let me speak to voting records if I can. You know, everybody knows that NAFTA cost literally thousands of American factories to close. We saw automotive jobs go south of the border. President Trump fought to renegotiate NAFTA. And the United States-Mexico-Canada agreement is now the law of the land. American people deserve to know Senator Kamala Harris was one of only 10 members of the Senate to vote against the USMCA. It was a huge win for American auto workers. It was a huge win for American farmers, especially dairy in the upper Midwest. But Senator, you said it didn't go far enough on climate change, that you put your radical environmental agenda ahead of American auto workers and ahead of American jobs. I think the American people deserve to know that. It's probably
I
why
tend to agree with you
Newsweek
about that whole
magazine
idea of
said
like
that
Biden being a
Kamala
little bit
Harris
of a
was the
moderate.
most liberal member of the United States Senate in 2019. More
Tend to
liberal
agree.
than Bernie Sanders, more liberal than any of the others in the United States Senate. So now with regard to China, look, Susan, first and foremost, China is to blame for the coronavirus. And President Trump is not happy about it. He's made that very clear, made it clear again today. China and the World Health Organization did not play straight with the American people. They did not let our personnel into China to get information on the coronavirus until the middle of February. Fortunately, President Trump, in dealing with China from the outset of this administration, standing up to China that had been taking advantage of America for decades in the wake of Joe Biden's cheerleading for China, President Trump made that decision before the end of January to suspend all travel from China. And again, the American people deserve to know Joe Biden opposed President Trump's decision to suspend all travel from China. He said it was hysterical. He said it was
Thank you, Vice
xenophobic.
President Pence.
But President Trump has
Vice
stood
President Pence,
up
your
to
time is
China.
up.
We're going to continue to stand strong.
Well,
Thank you,
okay, so
Vice
the whole thing with,
We want to
with
improve the
closing
relationship,
like
but
the
we're gonna
flights to
level
China,
playing
sure,
field.
fair
We're gonna
enough,
hold
that's
China
fine.
accountable
It's probably a
for
good
what
idea.
they did to
But he
America
didn't
with the
close
corona.
down Europe,
you.
like the flights to
Senator
Europe
Harris, let me
until it was
ask
too
you the
late
same
because I'm
question
pretty sure
that I
that
asked the Vice President.
the
How would you
coronavirus
describe
in New
our
York came
fundamental
from
relationship with China? Are
European
we
travelers,
competitors,
not from
adversaries,
travelers from
enemies?
China. So
You'll have 2 minutes uninterrupted.
Susan,
if I recall
the
correctly,
Trump administration's
there just was no
perspective
there was no
and
like
approach to
coordinated
China has
effort on the part of
resulted in
Trump
the
to like
loss of
really
American lives,
make a move to
American jobs, and America's standing.
secure and mitigate the coronavirus.
There's a weird obsession
Just felt
that
really
President Trump
uncoordinated
has
and-
had with getting rid of whatever accomplishment was achieved by President Obama and Vice President Biden. For example, they created within the White House an office that basically was responsible for monitoring pandemics. They got
Some of my
away, they
favorite tea
got
right
rid of
here.
it.
Not true.
You
There
had this before?
was a team of disease experts that President Obama and Vice President Biden dispatched
Super
to China
refreshing.
to monitor what is now predictable and what might happen. They pulled them out. We now are looking at 210,000 Americans who have lost their lives. Let's look at the job situation. We mentioned before the trade deal, the trade war, they wanted to call
Getting
it. with
closer.
China.
I'm in the orange
It
now.
resulted in the
Almost
loss
there
of
for my
over
power. I need
300
4 more
manufacturing
megawatts.
jobs and a manufacturing
Problem is
recession.
at night these solar
And the
panels
American
can
consumer
go
paying
down
thousands
too
of
much.
dollars more for goods because of that failed
There
war
is a
that they
game plan,
called.
Abhinav. Yeah, but
Then
I don't
let's
think
talk
even
about
our
Sandy
game plan isn't
Pew,
good. I
a
think
reputable
regardless of the
research
whole,
firm,
like like
has
the he
done
said,
an
she said,
analysis
let's blame people for
that shows
the
that leaders
lack of action
all of
or
our
incorrect
formerly
actions about
allied
coronavirus.
countries have
It
now
did expose the
decided
fact that
they
we
hold
need
in
to,
greater
as a
esteem
world,
and
be better
respect
prepared for
Xi
pandemics. Like
Jinping,
we're just,
the
we should be
head
able
of the
to.
Chinese
Ideally, we should be able to
Communist
close
Party,
things down
than they
with the
do
snap of a
Donald
finger
Trump, the
when
President
needed,
of the
so
United
that these
States,
things
the
don't spread.
Commander-in-Chief
Like
of
we
the
could have
United
gotten
States.
way,
This is where
way
we are
unlucky if
today
this virus was much more
because
lethal
of
than
a
it was.
failure of leadership by this
Like imagine a
administration.
pandemic where the virus itself is
Senator
much
Harris,
worse
we've
than
seen
the
changes
coronavirus.
in the role of the United
Right.
States in terms of global leadership over the past 4 years. And of course, times do change. What's your definition? We've seen strains with China, of course, as the Vice President mentioned. We've seen strains with our traditional allies in NATO and elsewhere. What is your definition of the role of American leadership in 2020?
So, Joe is, I love talking with Joe about a lot of these issues. And, Joe, I think he said it quite well. He says, foreign policy, it might sound complicated, but really it's relationships. So just think about it as relationships. And so we know this in our personal and professional relationships. You got
That's
to
true.
keep your
He
word
did.
to your friends.
He downplayed it.
Got to be loyal to your friends. People who've stood with you, got to stand
I
with
think
them.
I kind of understand downplaying
Gotta
it in
know
the very,
who your
very beginning when we
adversaries
don't
are
know enough about
and
the
keep them in
virus,
check.
just to avoid like mass panic.
But what we have
But at a
seen
certain
with
point,
Donald
like
Trump
when we know
is that
what we need
he
to know,
has
at that point you
betrayed
need
our
to sort of
friends and
state the seriousness of it so that people can respond
and
appropriately.
embraced dictators around the world. Let's take, for example, Russia. So, Russia, I serve on the Intelligence Committee of the United States Senate. America's intelligence community told us Russia interfered in the election of the President of the United States in 2016 and is playing in 2020. Christopher Wray, the director of the FBI, said the same. But Donald Trump, the Commander-in-Chief of the United States of America, prefers to take the word of Vladimir Putin over the word of the American intelligence community. You look at our friends at NATO. He has walked away from agreements. You can look at the Iran nuclear deal, which now has put us in a position where we are less safe because they are building up what might end up being a significant nuclear arsenal. We were in that deal, guys. We were in the Iran nuclear deal with friends, with allies around the country. And because of Donald Trump's unilateral approach to foreign policy, coupled with his isolationism, he pulled us out and has made America less safe. So, Susan, it's about relationships. And the thing that has always been part of the strength of our nation, in addition to our great military, has been that we keep our word. But Donald Trump doesn't understand that because he doesn't understand what it means to be honest.
Thank you, Senator Harris. Vice President Pence, let me give you a chance to respond.
Well, thank you. Well, President Trump kept his word when we moved the American embassy to Jerusalem, the capital of the state of Israel. When Joe Biden was vice president, they promised to do that, and they never did. We've stood strong with our allies, but we've been demanding. NATO is now contributing more to our common defense than ever before, thanks to President Trump's leadership. We've strengthened our alliances across the Asia-Pacific, and we've stood strong against those who would do us harm. You know, when President Trump came into office, ISIS had captured an area of the Middle East the size of Pennsylvania. But President Trump unleashed the American military, and our armed forces destroyed the ISIS caliphate and took down their leader, al-Baghdadi, without one American casualty. Al-Baghdadi was responsible for the death of thousands. But notably, America's hearts today are with the family of Kayla Mueller, her parents of which are here with us tonight in Salt Lake City. Today, 2 of the ISIS killers responsible for Kayla Mueller's murder were brought to justice in the United States. Jihadi John was killed on the battlefield along with the other Beatle. The reality is that when Joe Biden was vice president, we had an opportunity to save Kayla Miller. It breaks my heart to reflect on it, but the military came into the Oval Office, presented a plan. They said they knew where Kayla was. Baghdadi had held her for 18 months, abused her mercilessly before they killed her. But when Joe Biden was vice president, they hesitated for a month. And when armed forces finally went in, it was clear she'd been moved 2 days earlier. And her family says with a heart that broke the heart of every American that if President Donald Trump had been president, they believe Kayla would be alive today.
Thank you, Vice
Look, we
President.
destroyed the ISIS caliphate. And you talk about re-entering the Iran nuclear deal. I mean, the last administration transferred $1.8 billion to the leading state sponsor
Thank you, Vice
of
President
terrorism.
Pence.
President Donald Trump got us out of the deal.
Thank you, Vice President Pence.
And when Qasem Soleimani was traveling to Baghdad
Thank you,
to do
Vice President
harm
Pence.
to Americans, President Donald Trump took
Thank you,
him
Vice
out.
President Pence.
And America is safer, our allies are safer, and the American people know President Donald Trump will never
Thank you,
hesitate
Vice President
to take
Pence.
action.
I would like to give
I'd-
Senator Harris a chance to respond, but not at such great length, because of course there are other topics we want to talk
But
about.
I would like equal time.
Yes,
Thank you.
please go ahead.
First of all, to the Mueller family, I know about your daughter's case, and I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry. What happened to her is awful, and it should have never happened. And I know Joe feels the same way. And I know that President Obama feels the same way. But you mentioned Soleimani. Let's start there. So after the strike on Soleimani, there was a counter strike on our troops in Iraq. And they suffered serious brain injuries. And do you know what Donald Trump dismissed them as? Headaches. And this is about a pattern of Donald Trump's, where he has referred to our men who are serving in our military as suckers and losers. Donald Trump, who went to Arlington
What the
Cemetery
heck am I doing? Why do I have
and
these?
stood above
Why do
the
I have
graves
this belt bringing circuits
of our
down this way,
fallen
looping around, coming up
heroes
here? Why don't I just connect
and
it this
said,
way? What the?
What's in it for them? Because, of
What
course,
nonsense.
he only thinks about what's in it for him. Let's take what he said about John McCain, a great American hero. And Donald Trump says he doesn't deserve to be called a hero because he was a prisoner of war. And this is very important when you want to talk about who is the current commander-in-chief and what they care about and what they don't care about.
Wait. No, it's
Public
not going down
reporting
here. Oh,
that
geez.
Russia had bounties on the heads of American soldiers. And you know what a bounty is? It's somebody puts a price on your head and they will pay it if you are killed. And Donald Trump had talked at least 6 times to Vladimir Putin and never brought up the subject. Joe Biden would never do that.
Thank
Joe
you.
Biden would, but Joe Biden
Yeah.
would hold Russia to account for any threat to our nation's security or to our troops who are sacrificing their lives for the sake of our democracy and our safety.
Thank you, Senator Harris. This is such an important issue, but we have other important issues as well. And
Susan,
I
have
want to make
respond
sure
to
we
that.
have a chance
I really have to
talk about.
respond to that.
I'm-
Look, she has
15 seconds because
Well, I gotta
we're
have
trying
more
to
than
keep.
that. Look.
Well, I'm sorry, but Vice President
Look,
Pence, you've
I-
had more time than
Look,
she's
the-
had
the
so far.
slanders against President Donald Trump regarding men and women of our armed forces are absurd.
I'm sorry, Vice
My
President
son is
Pence.
a captain in the United
Yes.
States Marine Corps. My son-in-law is deployed in the United States Navy. I can assure all of you, with sons and daughters serving in our military, President Donald Trump not only respects but reveres all of those who serve in our armed forces, and any suggestion otherwise is ridiculous. Let
Thank
me
you,
also
Vice
say
President Pence.
the
Vice
The
President
American
Pence,
people
you know,
deserve, Susan,
Vice
the
President
American
Pence,
people
I
deserve to
didn't,
know.
Vice President
there's a
Pence, I did not,
pattern.
excuse
You
me,
can't deny.
Susan, the
I did
American
not
people
create
deserve
the
to know
rules for tonight.
Joe Biden.
Your
and Tom-
campaigns agreed to the rules for tonight's
I-
debate with the Commission on Presidential Debates. I'm here to enforce them, which involves moving from one topic to another, giving roughly equal time to both of you,
Go right ahead.
which is what I'm trying very hard to do.
Go right ahead.
So I want to go ahead and move to the next topic, which is an important one, as the last topic was, and that is the Supreme Court. On Monday, the Senate Judiciary Committee is scheduled to open hearings on Amy Coney Barrett's nomination to the Supreme Court. Senator Harris, you'll be there as a member of the committee. Her confirmation would cement the court's conservative majority and make it likely open to more abortion restrictions, even to overturning the landmark Roe v. Wade ruling. Access to abortion would then be up to the states. Vice President Pence, you're the former governor of
Oh, no.
Indiana. If Roe v. Wade is overturned, what
Abortion
would you
is
want
always
Indiana to do? Would you want your home
controversial.
state to ban all abortions? You have 2 minutes, uninterrupted.
Well, thank you for the question, but I'll use a little bit of my time to respond to that very important issue before. The American people deserve to know Qasem Soleimani, the Iranian general, was responsible for
Sanjay,
the
what's
death
up?
of
How you doing,
hundreds
dude?
of American service members. When the opportunity came, we saw him headed to Baghdad to kill more Americans. President Trump didn't hesitate, and Qasem Soleimani is gone. But you deserve to know that Joe Biden and Kamala Harris actually criticized the decision to take out Qasem Soleimani. It's really inexplicable, but with regard to Joe Biden, it's explainable. Because history records that Joe Biden actually opposed the raid against Osama bin Laden. It's absolutely essential
Wait,
that
didn't
we
we
have a
take out
commander-in-chief
Soleimani
who will not hesitate
without like
to act to
informing any
protect
of our
American
allies in
lives
the region? And
and
it
to
was like
protect
kind of like a
American
bad
service
move.
members, and that's what you have in
Am I
President
wrong on
Donald
that?
Trump. Now, with regard to the Supreme Court of the United States, let me say President Trump and I could not be more enthusiastic
My foreign policy.
about the opportunity to see Judge Amy Coney Barrett become Justice Amy Coney Barrett. She's a brilliant woman, and she will bring a lifetime of experience and a sizable American family.
Yeah,
the
like he was a
Supreme Court of the
popular guy
United
in
States.
Iran.
And our hope is, in the hearing next week,
I felt like
unlike
a lot-
Justice
there was a lot
Kavanaugh
of people
received
that was
with
a
treatment
bad
from
move
you and
on our
others,
part to take out
but we hope
Soleimani.
she
So I
gets a
don't know
fair
why.
hearing.
I don't know
And we
enough, but
particularly
I
hope
do
that we
feel
don't
like it
see
was
the kind of
looked
attacks
at as
on
a
her
bad move. because it was
Christian
sort of
faith that we
abrupt
saw
and
before.
unannounced, and the guy was actually
The
relatively
Democrat
popular.
chairman of the Judiciary Committee before, when Judge Barrett was being confirmed for the Court of Appeals, expressed concern that the dogma of her faith lived loudly in her. Dick Durbin of Illinois said that it was a concern. Senator, I know one of our judicial nominees you actually attacked because
Wait,
they were a
how
member
did
of
Pence?
the Catholic
Pence
Knights
is not
of
answering the
Columbus.
question, right?
Just
Like,
because
this
the
was
Knights of
about
Columbus
Roe v.
holds
Wade, and yet he's
pro-life
talking about
views
Soleimani.
and
Thank you.
views.
Thank you, Vice President
So
Pence. Your
my
time
hope
is
is
up.
that when the hearing takes place,
Thank you, Vice President Pence.
that Judge Amy Coney Barrett will be respected,
Thank you,
treated
Vice President
respectfully,
Pence.
Did I
voted and
miss
confirmed
something?
at
Did
the
they move
Supreme
on
Court.
from the Roe v.
Senator
Wade
Harris,
question? Oh,
you're
because they're talking
the
about
senator from and former
the
Attorney
Supreme Court
General of
nomination.
California.
Okay,
So let
so
me ask you a
you
parallel
pivoted a
question
little.
to the one I posed to the Vice President. If Roe v. Wade is overturned, what would you want California to do? Would you want your home state to enact no restrictions on access to abortion? And you have 2 minutes uninterrupted.
Thank you, Susan. First of all, Joe Biden and I are both people of faith, and it's insulting to suggest that we would knock anyone for their faith. And in fact, Joe, if elected, will be only the second practicing Catholic as President of the United States. On the issue of this nomination, Joe and I are very clear, as are the majority of the American people. We are
Oh, no.
27 days before
Oh,
the
God.
decision about who will be
Shoot,
the
I
next
wasn't paying. I
president of the
turned on
United
the.
States.
Oh, shoot.
And, you know, before, when this conversation has come up, you know, it's been about election year or
Oh.
election time.
Oh no.
We're literally in an
No.
election.
My entire side.
Over 4 million people have
How did they
voted.
get through?
People are in the process of voting right now. And so Joe has
know
been
my dad,
very
actually.
clear, as the
Oh, I'm dead.
American people are. Let the American people fill that seat in the White House, and then we'll fill that seat on the United States Supreme Court. And to your point, Susan, the issues
even save it.
before us couldn't be more serious. There's the issue of choice, and I will always fight for a woman's right to make a decision about her own body. It should be her decision and not that of Donald Trump and the Vice President, Michael Pence. But let's also look at what else is before the
When was the last
court.
autosave?
It's the Affordable Care Act. Like, literally in the midst of a public health pandemic, when over 210,000 people have died and 7 million people
Wait,
probably
1550?
have what will be in the future considered a pre-existing condition
wait, no, it
because
auto
you,
saved
you contracted the
1555.
virus. Donald Trump is in court right now trying to get rid of the Affordable Care Act.
Wait,
And I
really?
said it before, and it bears
That's not too
repeating.
bad, actually.
This
That was actually a
means
relatively recent save.
that there will be no
I got
more
lucky.
protections if they win.
Those
for
are
people with
aliens.
pre-existing
They're like little
conditions.
bugs.
This means that over
I'm not
20
100%
million
sure what they
people
are.
will lose your coverage.
Yeah,
it
like
means
little
that if
like
you're under the age of 26, you can't
they
stay on your
exist in
parents'
these little
coverage
hives
anymore.
over here. Like, do you
And
see
here's
them?
the thing.
Holy cow,
The
there's a lot of them.
contrast couldn't be more
They keep
clear.
spawning from
They're
these little
trying to get
hive
rid of the
areas.
Affordable Care Act. Joe Biden is saying, let's expand coverage. Let's give you a choice of a public
Thank you,
option or private coverage. Let's bring
Oh,
down
shoot, shoot, shoot.
Thank you,
premiums.
Senator.
Let's lower Medicare eligibility to 60.
Okay,
Thank
let
you,
me
Senator.
handle
That's
this
true
little guy.
leadership.
You know, you mentioned earlier, Vice President Pence, that the president was committed to maintaining protections for people with pre-existing conditions. But you do have this court case that you are supporting, your administration supporting, that would strike down the Affordable Care Act. The president says, President Trump says that he's going to protect people with pre-existing conditions, but he
okay,
has not
that's what happened.
explained
My turrets got
how
destroyed.
he would do that. And that was one of the toughest nuts to crack when they were passing the Affordable Care Act. So tell us
Copper,
specifically,
iron plate,
how
iron
would your
gear.
administration protect Americans with pre-existing conditions to have access to affordable insurance if the Affordable Care Act is struck down?
All these gears.
Well, thank you, Susan. But let me just say, addressing your very first question, I couldn't be more proud to serve as vice president to a president who stands without apology for the sanctity of human life. I'm pro-life. I don't apologize for it. And this is another one of those cases where there's such a dramatic contrast. Joe Biden and Kamala Harris support taxpayer funding of abortion all the way up to the moment of birth. Late-term abortion. They want to increase funding to Planned Parenthood of America. Now, for our part, I would never presume how Judge Amy Coney Barrett would rule on the Supreme Court of the United States, but we'll continue to stand strong for the right to life. When you speak about the
Mr.
Supreme
Chang,
Court,
with the
though,
whole, I
American
think
people really
the
deserve an
point
answer,
is that
Senator Harris. Are you and Joe Biden going to pack the court if Judge Amy Coney
people
Barrett is
don't
confirmed?
think that a woman should have to
I mean,
give
there
up
have
her
been 29
autonomy to
vacancies on the Supreme Court during presidential election years, from George Washington
like a
to Barack
growing
Obama. Presidents have nominated
embryo,
in all
right? Like
29
that's the-
cases. But your party is actually
That's the
openly
argument.
advocating adding seats
Like
to
you-
the Supreme Court, which has had 9 seats for 150 years, if you don't get your way. This is a classic case of if you can't win by the rules, you're going to change the rules. Now, you've
my
refused to answer the question. Joe Biden has refused to answer the question. So I think the American people would
I gotta
really
clear
like
these
to know
hives so I don't get
if
these
Judge
influxes.
Amy Coney Barrett is confirmed at the Supreme Court of the United States.
The problem
Are
with
you and Joe
the
Biden,
abortion
if
debate is
somehow
that
you
it's
win
just
this election, going to
there's
the Supreme
no
Court to
right
get
answer
your
either
way?
way,
I'm so glad we went through a little history
because
lesson.
ultimately
Let's do
it
that
comes
a
down to
little
like,
more.
do you think that
In 1860,
where
Well,
like
I'd
the
like you to
cutoff
answer
for
the
when it's
question.
living
Yes,
versus
Vice
not living?
President,
It's a very
I'm
difficult
speaking.
argument
I'm
to make
speaking.
either side.
in 1864,
I usually just err on the
one
side
of
of
the, I think, political heroes, certainly of the president, I
adult
assume if you also,
woman
Mr. Vice
gets the
President, is
choice.
Abraham Lincoln.
You know, I think I end up
Abraham
going that route
Lincoln
because it's
was
such a
up for
hard
re-election.
thing to.
And it was 27 days before
Choose.
the election. And a seat became open on
But I
the United States
understand
Supreme
the people
Court.
who really, if they really do
Abraham
think
Lincoln's
a child is
party
being
was in
killed, it
charge,
makes
not
sense
only
to
of the
sort of be
White House,
against it,
but
right?
the
If you
Senate.
really do think
But
that
honest
a growing
Abe
embryo at any stage is a
said
child,
it's not the
then
right
in
thing
your
to
eyes
do.
it's murder, right?
The
And I
American
get that. I
people
get why you would
deserve
be
to make
against
a
it.
decision about who will be the next president of the United States. And then that person can select who will serve for a lifetime on the
Right, so like,
highest
okay,
court
yeah, that
of our land.
then
And so
what you end
Joe
up
and I
getting
are very
down
clear.
to once you
The
argue,
American
once you kind of
people
like try
are
and really like
voting
think it through,
right
is that
now.
you have to
And it
like
should be
basically-
their decision about who will serve on this most important body
Sorry.
for a lifetime.
could put more turrets.
Thank
on this
you.
side.
And the
Senator
American
Harris.
people, Susan, are voting right now. They'd like to know if you and Joe Biden are going to pack the Supreme Court if you don't get your way in this nomination.
Let's talk about
You
packing.
once
Come
again
on.
gave a non-answer. Joe Biden gave a non-answer.
Trying to answer you
The American
now.
people deserve a straight answer. And if
Am
you
I
haven't
cutting
figured
out?
it out yet, the straight answer is they are
Sorry.
going to pack the Supreme Court if they somehow win this election. Men and
Mr.
women,
Vice President,
I got to
I
tell you,
think
people across this country, if you cherish our Supreme Court,
Just to
if you
finish
cherish
that
the
thought, train of
separation
thought. I'm sorry, I
powers,
get
you need to
distracted when I'm playing a
reject
game.
the
Just to finish that train
Biden-Harris
of thought.
ticket. Come November the 3rd, re-elect President Donald
What you end up
Trump.
getting down to
Stand by
is
the
like
separation
everyone
powers
pretty
of
much
the 9-seat
agrees
Supreme Court.
Yeah, let's talk
that you
about
can't
packing
kill
the
a
court
baby,
now.
right? Like everyone
Let's
agrees
talk
on
about
that,
the
Please.
fact. Yeah, I'm about to.
or the vast majority of people agree on
So,
that.
the Trump-Pence
And then pretty much
administration
everyone
has
also
been-
agrees
'cause I sit on the
that
Senate
like
Judiciary Committee, Susan,
a
as you mentioned,
sperm or an egg
and I've witnessed
separately are also
the
not
appointments
babies.
for lifetime
Or
appointments
are
to the
not
federal
babies, therefore
courts,
it doesn't,
district
you
courts,
can
courts of
destroy
appeal.
them and there's no problem.
People who
The
are
issue becomes when
purely
egg and
ideological,
sperm
people who
fuse,
have been
now you have an
reviewed
embryo,
by-
like a very
by legal
beginning of like a
professional
zygote,
organizations
right?
and found to have been
At that
not
point,
competent
now
or
it gets
substandard.
now it gets weird.
And
Because you're
do
like,
you
okay,
know
when
that
exactly
of the
is it?
50
Do we
people
call it like a
who
living baby that we
President
would
Trump
feel morally
appointed to the
unjustified in
Court of
destroying?
Appeals for lifetime
And
appointments, not one
it's
is
very
black?
hard to place that. There's
This
really
is
no
what
exact
they've been
point.
doing. You wanna talk
People
about
try and make
cracking a
claims
court.
about
Let's have that
heartbeat, about the
discussion.
nerve, like when it can
All right,
feel
thank
pain,
you.
when it
Thank
has
you,
like
Senator.
consciousness,
Let's go
when
on
it
and
has all
talk
these
about
things, and we
the
don't really
issue
know,
of racial
right? And
justice.
so
I just want
it's
the
a
record
very
refreshed. You
tricky
never
area.
answered the question.
And so a lot of
But
people will
the
just
American-
say,
maybe the next
if we
debate,
can't figure out
Joe
where the
Biden
line is,
answers
we
it.
just have
Thank
to
you.
I
say
think the American people know the
at
answer.
Thank you, Vice
conception, when
President.
sperm meets egg and fertilizes the
In
egg,
March,
we have to say
Breonna
that's
Taylor,
the point. So
26-year-old
therefore, I don't think
emergency room
abortion should be
technician
legal
in
because
Louisville was shot
because
and
we don't
killed
know when it becomes
after
a living
police
baby.
officers
We have to
executed a
therefore
search
assume
warrant
that
on
at any point
narcotics
after that it
investigation
could be,
broke into her
and we have to
apartment.
play it safe by not
The
doing
police
that.
said they identified
I think
themselves.
that's the
Taylor's
argument that I
boyfriend said he
understand
didn't
from
hear
most
them
of the
do
people that are
that.
pro-life,
He used a gun registered to him
anti-abortion.
to
Is
fire a
that's their
shot,
argument?
which
The fact
wounded
that
an
we don't
officer.
know when that line
The
is.
officers then fired more than 20 rounds into the
And then
apartment.
obviously
They say they were
pro-choice,
acting in self-defense.
people tend to be
None of
like,
them
well,
have been
we don't really need to
indicted
know where
in
that line is
connection with
because
her death.
we can safely assume
Senator
that
Harris,
a
in the
growing
case
embryo
of
very
Breonna
early
Taylor,
on doesn't really
was justice
experience
done?
pain, and
You
we
have
should
2
lean
minutes.
on giving the
don't believe so, and
the woman
I've
choice
talked with
because she
Breonna's
is a
mother,
sentient
Tamika
being and she will
Palmer,
have to deal with it and
and
she will
her
have to
family.
deal with the consequences of it, and therefore
her
we should
family
allow her to have
deserves
choice in
justice.
that
She was
day.
a beautiful young
I
woman.
tend to agree with that one. I
She
tend to
had
agree
as
with
her
that one
life goal
because
to become a nurse.
I think
she wanted to become an EMT to first learn
I think it's
what's
important
going
to
on
make women
out on the
feel like
street
they have some
so she
autonomy
could
over
then
their body,
become a
and
nurse and save lives.
that's
and her
where I
life was
kind of
taken
go with it. But I can understand both
unjustifiably
sides,
and
which is
tragically
why
and
it's a really
violently.
sticky, tricky,
And it
sticky,
just
tricky
it,
debate.
it brings me to, you know, the 8 minutes and
My voice is
46
choppy,
seconds
huh?
that America witnessed, during which an American man was tortured and killed under the knee of an armed, uniformed police officer. And people around our country of every
Sometimes my
race,
microphone gets annoying.
of every age, of every gender, perfect strangers to each other, marched shoulder to shoulder, arm in arm,
I'm just gonna test the audio of my
fighting
voice and see how it sounds. I'm gonna do a quick
for us to
playback real quick,
finally
so hold
achieve
on
that
one
ideal of equal
second.
justice under law. And I was a part of those peaceful protests. And I believe strongly that, first of all, we are never going to condone violence, but we always must fight for the values that we hold dear, including the fight to achieve our ideals. And that's why Joe Biden and I have said on this subject, look, and I'm a former career prosecutor. I know what I'm talking about. Bad cops are bad for good cops. We need reform of our
I'm gonna pause
policing
the
in
audio of
America
the
and
debate
our
for
criminal
1
justice
second
system, which is
because,
why Joe
need
and
to
I
test my
will
microphone.
and chokeholds and carotid, arm in arm,
Just gonna test the audio of my
fighting
voice and see how it sounds. Oh, you're right.
for
It
us
is
to
choppy.
finally
Hold
achieve
on
that
1
ideal of equal
second.
justice.
I'm gonna try and fix it. Let me do something. Audio input capture. I'm gonna remove this. Can you hear me now? How does it sound now? Is it still choppy? I like just kind of testing. It's still choppy. How do I do this? It's in sound settings, maybe? Input. Microphone, device properties. Additional device settings, here we go.
that you hear consistently from Joe Biden and Kamala Harris, that America is systemically racist. And that, as Joe Biden said, that he believes that law enforcement has an implicit bias against minorities, is a great insult to the men and women who serve in law enforcement. And I want everyone to know, who puts on the uniform of law enforcement every day, that President Trump and I stand with you. And it is remarkable that when Senator Tim Scott tried to pass a police
disable it and
reform
re-enable
bill,
it, so I want it to be
brought together a group of Republicans and
correct.
Democrats, Senator Harris, you got up and walked out of the room. And then you filibustered Senator Tim Scott's bill on the Senate floor that would have provided new accountability, new resources. Look, we don't have to choose between supporting law enforcement, improving public safety, and supporting our African American
Thank you,
neighbors
Vice
and
President.
all of our minorities. Under President Trump's leadership,
Thank you,
we'll
Vice President.
always
Ooh, that sounds
stand with
better.
law enforcement, and we'll do what we've
I think
done
that sounds
from day
better, right?
one, and
Thank
that is
you. Your time
improve
is
the
up.
lives of African Americans.
Thank you, Vice
Record
President Pence.
unemployment, record
Vice
investments in
President Pence, your time
education,
is
and we'll
up.
fight for school
Tremaine,
choice
I
for
agree
all
with
of our
you
Thank you, Vice President.
for the most part on your statement
Senator
that
Harris.
pro-choice doesn't
I will
mean
not sit here and be
pro-abortion.
lectured
It
by the Vice
means you
President
agree you support
on
a
what it
woman's
means
choice.
to
You can be
enforce the
pro-life
laws
for
of our
yourself, but
country. I am
pro-choice
the
for
only
others.
one on
I
this
agree with
stage
you, but I still
personally
understand a
prosecuted.
potential person going, well,
Everything from child
we
sexual
aren't,
assault to homicide.
we don't apply those
I'm
same
the only
rules
one on this
for
stage who was prosecuted
for,
with big banks for taking
like
advantage
murder
of
of any
America's
other
homeowners. I'm
kind,
the
right?
only one
So
on
like
this
if you
stage
think it's murder, if you
prosecuted
think
for
it's murder,
private
like if you're a
colleges
person who
for
thinks that
taking
that
advantage
abortion is
of our
murder,
veterans.
you would have like a moral
And the reality of
obligation,
this
therefore, to
is
sort of stand
that
against
we are
that in a
talking
society.
about an election in
Whereas a
27
person
days,
who,
where
like,
last
if
week,
you're just against
the
murder in
President of
general,
the
you usually
United
don't
States
want it to
took a
happen
debate
anywhere.
stage in front of 70
You know,
million
usually you don't go, well, I'm against murder, but I'm
refused to
okay with
condemn
other people
white
murdering, right? Like,
supremacists.
so I can kind of get that argument,
And
even though I don't necessarily agree with
It
it
wasn't
myself.
like he didn't have a chance.
Okay, we
He
gotta get
didn't
these
do
bugs
it,
outta
and
here.
then he doubled down. And then he said, when pressed, stand back, stand by. And
Yeah,
this
that
is
was a
pattern
bad move for Trump to say
of
stand
Donald
back and
Trump's.
stand by. the Proud Boy.
He called Mexicans rapists
That's
and
like a-
criminals. He instituted as his first act a Muslim ban. He on the issue of Charlottesville, where people were
need plates and
peacefully
speakers.
protesting the need for racial justice, where a young woman was killed. And on the other side, there were neo-Nazis carrying tiki torches, shouting racial epithets, anti-Semitic slurs. And Donald Trump, when asked about it, said there were fine people on both sides. This is who we have as the President of the United States. In America, you deserve better. Joe Biden will be a president
I'm
who
gonna die
brings
again.
our country together
Great.
Senator Harris.
and
a huge
recognizes the beauty in our diversity and the fact that we
Senator
all
Harris,
have
thank
so
you.
much more in common than what separates us.
Vice President Pence, let me give you a minute to respond.
Thank you, Susan. I appreciate that very much. You know, I think this is one of the things that makes people dislike the media so much in this country, Susan.
Oh, now I'm out of
That you
ammo.
selectively
Perfect,
edit,
huh?
just like Senator Harris did,
Piercing rounds?
comments that President Trump and I and others on our side of the aisle make. I mean, Senator Harris conveniently omitted, after the president made comments about people on either side of the debate over monuments, he condemned the KKK, neo-Nazis, and white supremacists, and has done so repeatedly. You're concerned that he doesn't condemn neo-Nazis. President Trump has Jewish grandchildren. His daughter and son-in-law are Jewish.
You can't say,
This is a
Pence, you
president
can't
who,
say that.
who
You can't
respects and
say
cherishes
he's not a
all of
Nazi,
the
he has
American
Jewish grandchildren.
But you
That's like
talk about
saying like
having
I'm not
personally
racist, I have
prosecuted.
black
I'm glad you
friends.
brought
That's
up
like the
your records,
exact
Senator.
equivalent.
Thank you.
It's not an argument,
I
dude.
really need to make this point. When you were DA in San Francisco, when you left office, African Americans were 19 times more likely to be prosecuted for minor drug offenses than whites and Hispanics. When you were Attorney
Thank you.
General of California,
Thank you,
you
Vice President.
increased the disproportionate incarceration of
Thank
blacks
you.
in California. You did nothing on criminal justice reform in California. You didn't lift a finger to
you.
pass the First Step Back on Capitol Hill. I mean, the reality is your record
Thank
speaks
you,
for
Vice
itself.
President
President
Pence.
Trump and I have fought for criminal justice reform.
Thank you, Vice President
We fought for
Pence.
educational choice and opportunities for African Americans, all of our
Thank you,
minorities.
sir.
And we'll do it for 4 more
Thank
years.
you. You know, there is no more important issue than the final issue that we're going to talk about tonight, and that is the issue of the election
But
itself.
Susan, he attacked my record. I would like an opportunity to respond.
Let me give you 30 seconds because we're running out of
I
time.
appreciate that. First of all, having served as the Attorney General of the state of California, the work that I did is a model of what our nation needs to do, and we will be able to do under a Joe Biden presidency. Our agenda includes what this administration has failed to do. It will be about not only instituting a ban on chokeholds and carotid holes.
Thank you.
Not only,
Thank you, Senator
I would
Harris.
like to go through,
These are points that you made earlier in the hour, and I want to talk about the election itself before we have to.
but I want to talk about the connection between what Joe and I will do and my record, which includes, I was the first statewide officer to institute a requirement that
Why
my
am I- why are
agents
they
would
all
wear body
attacking at the
cameras
same
and keep
exact
them on
time?
full time. We were the first to initiate a requirement that there would be a training for law enforcement on implicit bias because, yes, Joe Biden and I recognize that implicit bias does exist, Mr. Vice President, contrary to what you may believe. We did the work of instituting reforms that were about investing in reentry. This is the work that we have done and the work
to
we will do
build,
going
like, more
forward. And
explosives,
again, I will not be lectured by the Vice President on our record of what we have done in terms of law enforcement and keeping our
Wait, why do you
communities
attack
safe
them?
and a commitment to reforming the criminal justice system of America.
Thank you, Senator Harris. And I'd like to pose the first.
I'm gonna have to
I'd like
reload
you to
again 'cause I
respond first
can't-
to the question on our final topic, the election itself.
This is really annoying.
President Trump has several times refused to commit himself to a peaceful transfer of power after the election. If your ticket wins and President Trump refuses to accept a peaceful transfer of power, what steps would you and Vice President Biden then take?
What are my
What
thoughts
would
on defund
happen
the police?
next? You have 2 minutes.
So I'll tell you,
You know, I don't.
Joe and I
think
are, I think, particularly proud of
depends on what you
the
mean by
coalition
defund
that
the
we've built
police.
around our campaign.
I don't really
We
think
probably
it
have
makes
one of the
sense to
broadest
literally like
coalitions of folks
abolish
that
the
you've ever
police.
seen in
I
a
don't necessarily
presidential race.
think
Of course,
that
we
it's
have the support of Democrats, but
like
also
the all cops are bad
independents
is a
and
little bit of a
Republicans. In
hyperbolic
fact,
kind of over the top
7
thing.
members of
So I
President
don't really
George
think.
W. Bush's
I think it
cabinet
depends on what you
are
mean by
supporting
that.
our ticket.
What do you
We
think,
have the
Abhinav? What do you
support of-
think? What's your
of
opinion?
Colin Powell, Cindy McCain, John Kasich, over 500 generals, retired generals, and former national security experts and advisors are supporting
I
our
tend to be more of a moderate
and
when
I believe
when it
they are
comes to
doing
these
that
things.
because they know
Try and
that
looking
Joe
at it from
Biden
multiple sides
has
as
a
best I
deep,
can.
deep-seated commitment to fight for our democracy and to fight for the integrity of our democracy and to bring integrity back to the White House. And so we believe in the American people. We believe in our democracy. And here's what I'd
I
like to
think
say to
police have hard
everybody.
jobs,
Vote.
but I also think there's
Please
a lot of
vote.
people.
Vote early.
there
Come up
can
with a
be
plan to
people
vote.
in
Go to
the police that don't
iwillvote.com. You can also
do
go
their
to
jobs correctly.
joebiden.com. We have it within our power in these next
I would like
27
to see
days
police have better
to
training.
make the decision about what will be the course of our country for the next 4 years. And it is within our power, and if we use our vote and we use our voice, we will win. And we will not let
think
anyone subvert our
It's an
democracy
extremely hard job
with
to
what
be a police
Donald Trump
officer,
has
though.
been doing, as he did on the debate stage last week, when
maybe
again in
even
front of 70
impossible.
million people,
To do
he openly
100% perfectly all the
attempted
time.
to suppress the
But that
vote.
doesn't excuse
Joe Biden, on the other
any
hand, on that
abuse
same
of
debate
power
stage, because clearly Donald Trump doesn't
or
think
any
he can run
like
on a
clear
record because it's a
malicious
failed record.
intent or anything like
Joe
that.
Biden on that stage said, hey, just please vote. So I'll repeat what Joe said. Please vote.
Thank you, Senator. Vice President Pence, President Trump has several
go
times
crazy on
refused to commit
defense here.
himself to a peaceful transfer of power after the election. If Vice President Biden is declared the winner and President Trump refuses to accept a peaceful transfer of power, what would be your role and responsibility as Vice President? What would you personally do? You have 2 minutes.
Well, Susan, first and foremost, I think we're going to win this election. Because while Joe Biden and Kamala Harris rattle off a long litany of the establishment in Washington, D.C., an establishment that Joe Biden's been a part of for 47 years, President Donald Trump is has launched a movement of everyday Americans from every walk of
Oh
life.
wow, that ammo's way more
And,
powerful.
I have every confidence that those same Americans that delivered that historic victory in 2016, they see this president's record, where we rebuild our
Man, I'm
military.
stuck on this part.
We revived our economy through tax cuts and rolling back regulation, fighting for fair trade, unleashing American energy. We appointed conservatives to our federal courts at every level. And we stood with the men and women of law enforcement every single day. And I think that movement of Americans has only grown stronger in the last 4 years. But when you talk about accepting the outcome of the election, I must tell you, Senator,
What's up,
your party
Vitae?
has
Is
spent
that
the
how
last
is
3.5
that
years
Vitae
trying to
Lowell,
overturn
Vite,
the
or
results of the
Vitae?
last election. It's amazing. When Joe Biden was vice president of the
I don't
United
know if you think it's
States,
stupid. If anything,
the
we should
FBI
kinda
actually
place
spied on
more. Yes, I agree with
President
the
Trump
fact that
and
we
my
should invest more in
campaign.
underdeveloped communities.
I mean, there were documents released this week. The CIA actually made a referral to the FBI documenting that those
So
allegations
I
were
don't
coming
necessarily
from the
agree
Hillary
that saying
Clinton
there's
campaign. Of course,
systemic racism
we've
is
all seen
absurd.
the avalanche, what you put the country through.
I
for-
think
for
the thing is
better
that you
part of,
don't
what,
necessarily.
3 years
The thing with systemic
until it was found
racism
that
is you
there was
don't
no
need
obstruction, no collusion,
necessarily
case
need
closed.
individual
And then
overt
Senator Harris, you and your
racist
colleagues in
people within a
in the
system
Congress
for it
tried
to
to impeach
propagate.
the President of the United States over a phone call. And now Hillary Clinton has actually said to Joe Biden
So I
that
think
under-
like
in her
the
words,
idea
under
of
no
systemic racism
circumstances should
is a
he
tricky one
concede the
because
election. So
we often want to
let
be
me
able
just
to
say, I think we're
like
gonna
think that
win
we can
this
point
election.
at someone or
President
something
Trump
or
and I
some
are fighting
rule
every
in
day in
general
courthouses to prevent
when it might
Joe
be
Biden
more
and
of a
Kamala Harris from
like
changing
general
the
like
rules
overall
and creating
norm
this universal
or
mail-in voting that'll create a massive
and this is
opportunity for
and for
voter
people
fraud.
that like to be able
We
to
have a
sort
free
of
and
point
fair
to an
election.
exact
We know
that
we
is
have
the thing, like
confidence in it.
point to something like
And I believe in all my
empirically
heart that
it's
President
tricky
Donald Trump's gonna be
because there might
reelected
not
for
be
4
anything
years.
empirical.
You know, I've
and
written
I'm
all
somebody
the
who's very
questions
much
I've
about
asked
like
tonight,
empirical
but for the
evidence,
final
and I
question
find
of the
that
debate,
that's the most compelling
like
kind of
to,
evidence. And with something like
write a-
systemic
read a
racism,
question
the
that
evidence
someone
we
else wrote.
have is typically
The
like
Utah Debate
just the fact that
Commission
there's
asks
different
students
levels
in the
of
state
success in our society
to
for
write
different
essays about what
ethnicities,
they
right?
would like to ask.
And so then the
I wanna
question is,
close
well,
tonight's debate
dude,
with
I
the
don't know if I'm
question
going to be able to
posed
get
by
past this.
Brecklin Brown.
I might be
She's an
screwed here.
8th
I might need to go
grader
back
at
to a later,
Springville
earlier
Junior High
save
in
to get some
Springville,
more
Utah.
momentum to
And here's
defeat
what
these.
she wrote, quote, when I watch the news, all I see is arguing between
So then the
Democrats
question
and
is like, okay, we
Republicans.
have this,
When I
we
watch
have
the
this
news,
problem where we
all I
have
see is
groups of people
citizen
that tend to be
fighting against
underserved,
citizen.
right?
When I
that
watch
have
the news, all I see
less
are two
success.
candidates
So then the
from
question is, okay,
opposing
like how is
parties
that?
trying to tear each
Why
other
does that
down.
exist?
If our leaders
And
can't get along, how
that's
are the
where there
citizens
seems to be
supposed get
disagreement
along?
among
And then
people,
she
right?
added,
There are some people
"Your
that will say it's
examples can
entirely
make all the
racism
difference
and based
to
off
bring us
everything.
together."
The
End quote.
only reason
So
why
to each
people
of you in turn,
aren't
I'd like you to
succeeding is
take
because
1
they're
minute
discriminated against in
and
some way or
respond
another by
Brecklin.
large
Vice
oppressive
President Pence, you have
systems
1 minute.
that put them down,
Brecklin,
right?
it's a wonderful question.
And then there are people that say, then there's the
And,
opposite side that's like, okay,
Let me just commend
the
you for
reason why
taking
these people
an
aren't
interest in
succeeding is because
public
it's
life.
ingrained in their culture or something, or
I
something about
started,
the people
following
themselves.
the news when I was very young.
Now, I think
And in America,
one
we
I think
believe in a free
the
and
first thing
open
I said,
exchange
where
of
it's like
debate.
everything is based completely on
We
like
celebrate that.
overt, like crazy
how we
racism is
created
probably
literally the
is definitely
freest and
too
most
far one way,
prosperous nation
and then blaming it
in the history of
individual
the
like
world.
individual cultures or types of people is
I
basically
would
racist,
tell you
right?
that,
And not at all
don't
factual either.
assume that what
It's
you're
probably
seeing on
probably
your local
mostly systemic,
news
mostly
networks
opportunity. So
is synonymous
I guess
with
maybe it'll
racism.
make sense if I premised my
You know, I
general
look at the
thoughts
relationship
on.
between Justice Ruth Bader
people.
Ginsburg, the late justice who we just
I don't
lost
think
this
anyone
week,
really has free will.
and the
So
late
I'm coming
Justice
from a very
Antonin
different
Scalia.
point of view than most
They
people.
were on polar
My
opposites
philosophical
on the Supreme Court of the
understanding
United
and
States.
the way
One
that I
very
understand
liberal,
people is
one
that
very
everyone is pretty much
conservative. But
a
what's been
result of
learned
the
since her
circumstances
passing
of
was
their
the two of
genetics
them and
that they're
their
born with
families
and circumstances
very
that they're born
close
into, their
friends.
environment, their
And
social
here in
groups, and all
America,
these
we
things.
can disagree.
And so
we can debate vigorously, as Senator
no one
Harris
really
did
has ultimate
on this
control. So
stage
I'm
tonight.
probably not the person
But
that you want to
when the
ask
debate is over,
because I'm going to
we'll
give
come
you an
together as
answer that's
Americans.
very
And that's what people do in big cities and small towns all across this country. So
coming from a
I
place
just
of I
wanna
think
encourage
everyone
Brecklin. I wanna
doesn't
tell you,
really, no one really controls
we're
or
gonna work
has
every day to have
control over
government as good as our
the
people.
outcomes of their life,
the
really,
American people
even though
each
we
and
might feel
every
like we
day
do for a variety
love
of
a good
reasons.
debate. We love a good argument,
Um,
but we always come
But
together and are
because I have
always
that
there for
mindset,
one
because I really don't
Thank
think
you.
people
Times of
control
need,
what
especially
I
where
just
it's
think we need
Thank
to
you.
be more
Difficulties
compassionate to
of
people
issue.
because of their circumstance they had no
Senator
control over.
Harris, what would you say say to Brecklin?
I really do. Like, I think that's the only way we
First of
can
all,
think about it.
I love hearing from our young
Um,
leaders.
And when I hear her words,
So
when I hear
whatever it
your
is that's
words,
causing, so
Brennan,
whatever it is,
I
and
know our
there's
future
something
is
that's
bright
causing people to
because
be
it
disadvantaged
is
in our
that
society. Because
perspective on who we are and who
now
we
the
should
question
be.
is it
That
genetic?
a
Is it
sign of
environmental?
leadership and a
It
sign
doesn't
that
really
we're all
matter because
inspired.
none of that's controlled.
And
No one
that,
has
that brings
control
me
over
to
it. So
Joe.
trying to
Joe
blame,
Biden,
placing
one
blame
of the
is
reasons
really
that Joe decided to
is
run
probably the worst
for president
thing
is
that you can do in a
after
situation like
Charlottesville,
this.
which we talked
What you
about
want
earlier.
to do is, instead of blaming, throwing
It
blame
so
around,
troubled him
is
and
simply
upset
say,
him
hey,
like it
here's
did
the
all of
problem.
us, that there was that
How can we
kind of
work to
hate
make it right?
and
How can we
division.
fix it? Right?
What propelled Joe to run for president
And what that
was to see
means
that over the
is
course
giving
of the
people
last 4
opportunity
years, what Breckland described
don't
has
have
been
it.
happening.
And that also
Joe
means
has
that
a
other people who do
long-standing
have
reputation of
opportunity
working
need
across
to
the aisle.
have to,
And working
in
in a
some way or another,
bipartisan
sort of
way.
sacrifice a little bit
And that's
and
what he's gonna
understand
do as
that they're in
president.
that privileged position not due
Biden
to any
has
sort of
a
means of their
history
own, but entirely out of
lifting
circumstantial
people
luck.
up
And
and
if they were
fighting for
born in
their
any other
dignity.
place, or born to
I
any
mean,
other
you have to know
parents,
Joe's story
or
to
born
know
in
that
any
Joe has
other
known
any other
pain,
possible circumstance, they
known
would be a
suffering,
completely different person, have
and
very
he has
different
known
life.
love.
And
And
to think that
so,
they are somehow
Breckland,
deserving
when
of
you
their
think
position
about
in
the
life seems a
future,
little bit.
I do believe the future
It doesn't
is
make sense
bright.
to me. So
And it will be
regardless of
because
whether
of
it's
your leadership,
systemic or genetic,
and it
I
will
don't think it actually
be
matters in the
because
end. I
we
think
fight
people that
for
argue
each
over
person's
both
voice
it's actually
through
kind of a
their
worthless
vote,
argument
and
in
we
the
get
end.
engaged
And
in this
ultimately,
election because you
no one
have the
controls anything.
ability
So we
through
just need to
your
make sure
work
as many people
and
can be
through
in a position of
eventually
happiness
your
as
vote
much as we can.
you,
to determine the future of
I know
our
it might not
country
be a
and what
satisfying
its
answer, but I
leadership
think
looks
it's
like.
the answer that makes the most sense
Thank
to me.
you, Senator Harris. Thank you, Vice President Pence. Thank you so much for being with us tonight. We want to thank
Onslaught,
also
what up, my
the
dude? You got an
University of
apes
Utah
question.
for its
Thanks for stopping in.
hospitality. And most of all, our
For
thanks
tables
to all the
on
Americans
birth rates,
who
is
watched
the
this
units in
debate
number per
tonight.
women also are
Again,
we
our
meant to
best
record the
wishes for a
births
quick
and death
recovery
rates
to
for 2016
President
and for
Trump, the First Lady, and
2050s?
everyone who is battling
I gotta
COVID.
refresh myself. Let me pull up
The
the
second
worksheet.
presidential debate is next week on October 15th, a town hall style debate in Miami. We hope you'll join us then. Good evening.
All right, that ended. Let me see. I love how they always have to show, at the end of the debates, they always have to show how the candidate interacts with their significant other. It's weird, dude. It's so weird to me. It's like, hold on, we're not done yet. Let's see how they kiss and how they hug and how they like. Like, what if someone was single? What if they're like, yeah, I'm asexual, or you know what, I don't have a partner. People would be like, oh, that you can't run for office if you don't have a partner. You have to have somebody that comes and gives you a kiss at the end of the debate. One's wearing a mask, one's not. It's so awkward right now. Dude, how awkward is that? It's so awkward, dude. Oh my god. It's so fake. The whole thing is fake, man. Let me see. Classwork, demographics. All right. All right. I got a question about apes for the table's birth rates. Is it in unit per woman? Yeah. So birth rate. No. Birth rate is always number of individuals born per 1,000 people. It's number of individuals born per 1,000 people. So if you're talking about if you're talking about this data table, these are birth rates. So if we look at if we look at the simulator. Oh wait, they're giving birth rates in number of children per woman. Never mind. They're using a different metric. Usually when we talk about crude birth rate, we're talking about individuals born per 1,000 people. So they're actually giving they're giving it per woman here. So yeah, just use that. I didn't realize they were using a different metric for it. These should be 2015, and these are 2050. These are just your screenshots of your demographic pyramid. So Abhinav, I would just ask you to sort of think a little more about like why are gangs more common in these places? Right? Like why do gangs exist in these places more than they exist in other places? Onslaught, did I answer your question? I don't feel like I did. I feel like I didn't answer your question. Are we meant to record the birth and death rates of 2015 instead of 2050? For which part? These ones are all 2050 because you're simulating forward. Lesson 3. Number 5. Can I remember just be screenshots? Oh yeah, you're right. There's a prediction there that you can't sketch. Yeah, see, this is the problem with remote learning. You can't sketch it in there, so you're going to have to... What you could do here is you could write something simply like... wait. Down here. Pyramid prediction, right? Just write something like... you could write something like bottom heavy... You could describe it. So instead of drawing it, you could just describe it. I would just say like, you could say like bottom heavy, or like top heavy, or even distribution, evenly distributed. Like you can use some adjectives to describe what you think it'll look like rather than having to sketch it. Yeah, it's not easy to make these drawings in Google Drawings. So just use some adjectives to describe it. Well, overall, I don't know. How do we feel about that debate? It felt much more civilized. I thought it was. They handled themselves better than Trump. It really showed that Trump is a unique character in terms of his ability to sort of simply not engage in rational conversation and just sort of try and bully and shout people, which is not a great thing. I don't think I was being specific enough for the other question. In lesson 2, step 2. Lesson 2, step 2, Japan. Would you want us to record the birth rate, death rate, and population growth after running through it at 2050 or during 2015 before we run it? Wait, hold on a second. No, Japan. After running through it at 2050 or during 2015. Wait. Okay, lesson 2, step 2. Okay. What will happen when the average reached by 5 years? I'm trying to process it, Onslaught. I'm really trying to think what you mean. So when you run it through, like I'm trying to just go through the steps myself to see where you're running into the issue, just like revisiting the actual steps here. So when you click on population momentum, you open the simulator, run the simulator to 2050 and record the data. So you run it to 2050 and you record the data. Right, birth rate, death rate, population growth. Make a prediction on what would happen to the birth rate and death rate if childbearing age were raised by 5 years, right? So you would just say like, you'd say like if the childbearing age was raised by 5 years, you'd say birth rate would go down. You'd say death rate would probably be unchanged. Population growth would go down, right? And then you would just do the same thing for Japan that you just did before. Yeah, so if you go, so what does it ask you to do? You go +5. Oh, it immediately, so you don't have to run the simulation again because it immediately tells you. Is that what you're saying? Oops, I changed the wrong one actually. Reset that. Wouldn't the values be the same? So let's see. So 3.94, 34.1. 3.94, 34.1. Oh, whoa. Oops, it's running it ahead. Wait, stop, dude. Go back. So we do go here, click apply and run to 2050. Let's see what it gives us. So it gives us 4.1, 1.14. Okay, 4.13, 1.14. Reset. Wait, what the heck? It's not changing the... Yeah, so the values when it says 2050, I see you're asking now. So yeah, you once you've run it, once you're at 2050 and you adjust that, now you have your value that you can record. Now you record it. So you run it once, right? So you run it up to 2050 and then record each value when you adjust it. So I would go, so for Nigeria, I would put in these numbers now. Right, and then for the next column it says plus 15 years. Now I put in these values. And then I go back to minus 5 years, right? I don't like how it doesn't tell you where you're at with that. Yeah, it's I wish that this was written a little less confusing, to be honest. It's a little I do understand that it's kind of confusing. You know, but ultimately what this whole simulation is just sort of trying to basically reinforce is the idea that some characteristics of populations, birth rates particularly, affect population growth dramatically, and you know, even small changes in birth rate can be huge in terms of population growth over a long period of time. And so, especially when we talk about like the fertility rate of women in certain countries, it tends to have a big impact on their population growth. So, yeah. No problem. No problem. Okay. All right. I gotta be able to do this alien situation. I'm in real trouble here. So I'm gonna do. What do I want to do? I want to make a couple grenades. That might help me in the short term and build some of these. Okay. But I gotta stop these solar panels so I can actually get building. Mr. Chang, you're such a liar. 7th grade? How dare you? I don't teach 7th grade. Is your memory that bad? Ooh, maybe I need to change my ammo factories to make a little bit more better ammo, a little bit more powerful ammunition. Actually, probably don't want to make too many of these. That's probably good. Alright, I gotta fight off this invasion over here first. Okay, here we go, here we go, here we go. Let's see if I can get over here in time to get rid of these guys. Where's my grenades? Where are my grenades? How do you use a grenade in this game? Dude, I don't even know how to use a grenade. What do I right click and then like... Oh. Wow, that was actually really effective, those grenades. Grenades, 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 grenades. Did I use all my grenades? I did. You wouldn't want me to cook. I'm really bad at cooking. When I make food, it's like it's essentially just the basics to survive. I'm like a just like a sustenance survival chef. much damage was done here. And not a terrible amount I can recover from this. What the heck? See ya, Abhinav. So much to rebuild. Oh my god. Alright, you know what? Alright. It's another day then. I'm done with that. Okay. That was too much. I'm gonna have to go back to an earlier save. 16, 15, 15. Give me extra 5 minutes there. That might be the time to go back to. Okay, now I gotta. I think I'm good in terms of my defense now. What's MC? MC, like multiplayer? Oh, Minecraft. I mean, Minecraft. Got it. Yeah, I don't know. I remember Minecraft being okay, but I never really got into it for some reason. Like there was like a period of time where I played it very briefly, and then something happened where I just kind of found myself not enjoying it that much. Where games like this game here, it's more. I think the focus of this game is different than Minecraft, which is why I like this game a little bit better. Minecraft has got its own sort of obvious like benefits. Actually, this will just be able to go down like that. And then same with this. This kind of runs down. Has anyone played the new Baldur's Gate, the Baldur's Gate 3 that came out? 94%. Wait, I played 15 hours of Baldur's Gate 3 early access and I want them back. People are rating on Steam. Very positive. Hey, the thing is, I never played the original Baldur's Gate that's so like heralded as like one of the best. Action RPGs, you know? See some gameplay.
Character creation simulator, and we're back after a couple technical. That's what this would look.
Okay.
Which is awesome because that's not a norm. God, I love.
It's
her.
all cinematics. Where's some actual gameplay? Here we go. Wow, looks
Man,
nice.
if I could just end this turn, that would be great.
See on your screen.
Oh, this is very bad. All right, you need to.
Can you rotate the camera?
Let me see in the options because it's not letting me with the how Divinity lets you do it with the mouse click. It's
All right.
not letting me do that. So let me.
American Truck Simulator. It's so weird to me that like American Truck Simulator is very interesting because it's like you're literally just driving a truck, right? Like just that's all you're doing is just driving a truck from point A to point B. Like literally you have a job. I don't really get it. But I guess it's also you could say the same thing about this game. Like this would be like building a factory is considered technically a job. Let me actually fix this so it's a little more evenly spaced here. Oops. Mohammed, have I ever tried Arkham City? Probably one of the best games I've played. Arkham City, the Batman game, right? The action game. That game, I think I did. When did it come out? It's not that new, huh? Are you talking about this one, the 2011 game, Mohammed? People loved it. People are all about it. I believe I did play this because 2011, I would have picked this up because of the reviews. Normally, if a game gets really high reviews, I want to at least give it a shot. I remember the combat being very fluid. Like it was very fun the fighting was very fun because it was very like, it felt very fluid. Like the transitions from one move to the next, right between like bad guys. And the puzzle solving was kind of cool. Yeah, I think I remember liking this game. But like for an action adventure game, I think I enjoyed it. Although it's not my cup of tea per se. I don't gravitate towards action adventure games. I'm more like, my style of game is like this kind of game, like a Factorio game, like more like a technical simulator. I also do like RPGs, and I have been known to dabble in MMOs, like World of Warcraft was like my big one for a while. I'm also not a huge Batman fan. Actually, this goes over here. Like, I'm not a superhero guy. I don't, like, it's weird because I think everyone's all about superheroes now, all these movies, and it's just it's not my thing. RimWorld, yes, I played RimWorld for a bit. I liked it. I liked it a lot. Actually, I think I like Factorio better than RimWorld, though. Oh, these things. Okay, so they're coming from south, too, that I need to be careful about. So they're trying to... Put some turrets down here. Beef up the wall a little bit. I don't have any room over here to pull that, so I'm going to have to expand this. Cryptic, have I tried Realm of the Mad God? No. Doesn't even sound familiar. Realm of the Mad God. Let's take a look. Ooh. Look at the ratings. 84, 85% on Steam. Team up with dozens of players and battle through the realm of the Mad God Oryx with a retro 8-bit style. An evolution of traditional MMO gameplay. Wait, 2020? Wait, it says 2012 here. Jeez, that's loud. Interesting. I'm not sure. I'm trying to think how much I like the 8-bit idea for an MMO. I would worry that an 8-bit, although 8-bit usually, like, even though it's not it's not that, it can be beautiful. Like 8-bit graphics can be nice if done properly. Oh, it's permadeath. That's rough. Permadeath can be very frustrating. Is it Cryptic? Is it more like RuneScape? If you had to like equate it to another MMO? Oh, oops, wait, this is going the wrong way. What am I doing? What am I doing? Oh, this actually, oh, you know what? This wall needs to go down further. Okay. So you basically, you can't really change your, so it's a fixed camera game, essentially. Can you even rotate the camera? Because sometimes fixed camera games can be a little bit frustrating at times when it's like you want to look in a certain way, but you can't really do it. Alexi, what's up, man? Thanks for stopping in, dude. You're confirming the American Truck Simulator? Dude, that's 2 votes for American Truck Simulator. All right, you've convinced me to look at it. American Truck Simulator. All right, what do we got here? What? A 10 out of 10? Holy, look at this ratings. They're off the chart. How can a game where you drive a truck literally be the best rated game of all time? 10s? Wow, overwhelming.
Sorry, I did miss your name because the chat is moving very, very fast. There's a lot of you in here.
So,
today, but someone was asking.
so okay,
have to-
question.
To, pay for DLC to get
With
the
the-
truck, and I think we can easily.
I'm already setting it up here. Like,
With a game like this,
Well, so there lots of options there for you. To
do you need a wheel? Straight up. Like, do you need a like a driving wheel to play this game? Or is this like a mouse and keyboard acceptable game? I feel like you'd want like a wheel. Yeah, that's what I thought. I could see it being a chill game. So here's my question. With a game like that where you're literally just in a truck driving and just listening to like music or a podcast. So is the fact that you're in, like, what is it about the game itself that goes well with a music or a podcast? Because like almost any game goes well with music or a podcast. Like this game, like Factorio, is perfect for music or a podcast, right? Like, in my opinion. I mean, sometimes you can get distracted in the game, but most of the game, it's relatively like chill, where you're just sort of building and constructing, and you're not like reacting to things like an action game, you know, or like a game like, you know, requires your like massive attention. Yeah, so it's not necessary, but it's better, yeah. Makes sense. I would imagine like any driving game. I've seen some of those crazy. Actually, what? Let's look this up real quick. Let's look up like insane setups for American Truck Simulator. Let's look up if there's any crazy. I want to see people's. All right, so this guy's got what? Like 3 monitors, a control panel. Oh my God, he's got like a monitor for each window. This isn't that crazy though, because all this is. What about this one?
It's very nice, man. Like I said, man, there's a ton of things that I wished I'd have known. I wished I'd have done.
Dude, look at this. Look at this insane setup. Bro, just buy a truck. Just buy a truck. Why simulate it to such a high level when you could literally buy a truck?
Alright, so we are in
You know what I mean?
we've actually got red right
Is this literally just 3 hours of him just driving the truck around?
We've got a giveaway here, 170 miles. Alright, so we get to the next city, which will be Port Angeles.
That's actually kind of cool, though. I'll be honest. That's pretty cool. Like, that looks really chill. He's just chilled out.
That is already in and out.
This guy went all out on his setup, though, huh?
Give that away. Give away, everybody gets a car. Everybody gets a car.
It's even crazier. Yeah, that makes sense, Alexei. I totally agree with you that sometimes just chilling out, completely a lack of any brain engagement can be fun. Yeah, I mean, I know I've seen the Microsoft Flight Sim, right? The new one that came out looked pretty good. I saw Dr. Disrespect playing it. Because that game came out like right as he was starting on YouTube, right? After his whole weird Twitch, mysterious Twitch boot. Wait, what's going on here? Why don't these have power? Okay, so those all have power. This one doesn't have power. Why? Because there's not a power line there. Onslaught. For the population ecology exercise, I kind of use the slideshows for my answers. That's still okay. As opposed to the textbook, that's fine. It doesn't really matter how you answer them as long as you kind of get the ideas behind the review. So how am I doing this? I'm alternating every row, right? I'm going a straight row and then a row with power lines. A straight row with power lines, straight row with power lines, straight row with power lines. This can be a straight row then. That's cool. Well, I mean, that's what they do with pilots, right? They have pilots do their flight sim experience. Kind of makes sense. Although I do feel like driving a truck is way lower stakes than flying a plane. So I would be less concerned with someone practicing it on a real truck than I would be with someone practicing in a real plane. Am I getting rampaged again? Are these things just tearing through me? Dude, these things are going mental on me right now. Alright, I have to figure this out because this has just become like a literal nightmare for me. I need to invest in some army gear here. Oops, I want this to go here. Oh shoot, what? Wow, that is really bad. I need to bring these. Juke 'em. Okay, it's clear that I have not put enough into defense. Or maybe I'm not doing enough proactive clearing of these hives. You rented a small truck, like one of those U-Hauls. Was it anything like you expected? Did you drive it, or were you just sort of sitting inside of it? Auto save 1610. I guess we gotta go from here. Okay, so I'm gonna kind of not do anything with solar panels right now. I gotta build up better defenses. Okay, so it looks like maybe I should just go out here. Like, why is there a huge cluster there? Like, what is going on with this? Your dad should have let you drive a little bit, like in a place that's pretty, like, very, like, dead, like maybe a parking lot. Just give it a test out the how she handles. I'm gonna buff that up a bit. Yeah, sometimes the real thing will be a little bit different. Okay. All right, what's the last thing I want to do before I call it quits for tonight? Get these things to start producing better ammos. So how do I make one of these? I need copper plates, steel plates, and firearm magazines. Okay. Holy cow, these things, why is there no ammo? Oh, what do I do? Where's my grenades? Where are my grenades? Oh, there they are. I just blew myself up. Oh, God. I'm like I've realized that like all of my like lack of investment into any sort of defenses is now haunting me because it's just becoming a real struggle. I had it under control. second. I'm not gonna be able to make it. I got work. I can't go hiking. Let's see. I really need to do this. So I need copper plates to go up here. Actually, I don't need them to go up there. What do I need? I need steel. All right, here's what I'm gonna do. Divert this over here. Put one. Okay, so this one. Do where's the steel bars? Iron plates. With your lights on, are you in a do you got like a vehicle or something that you cruise around in? Oh, you got your truck. You got that truck, don't you? Wait, steel bars. Why? How do you make steel bars? Oh, you need a furnace. That's what it is. It's not even a. It's not one of these. It's a furnace. Which that means needs coal, which is a whole other thing that's a pain. I gotta bring coal over here now. Wait, so I'm gonna research electric furnaces. How do I research? Wait, I have electric furnaces. Excuse me. I researched that already. Stone brick. Advanced circuit. Stone brick. I got bricks. Get some bricks. Electric furnace. I should set up a machine to make electric furnaces for me. Automate that. Because I'm going to want to replace a lot of my furnaces with electric ones, so I don't have to do this whole coal thing. Trying to get out of the business of coal. You know. But for now, I'm going to have to stick with one furnace. Wow, it's a beefy. I don't joke around. Oh shoot, this is not good. This is not good. Where's my nades? Oops. Wow, those grenades are free. Why are these not having ammo? What has happened to my ammo production? What? Did I accidentally stop this from making ammo? I did. Oh my god, I'm so dumb. Okay. This is gonna take that. It's gonna make me some steel plates, which we can output over here. I need electricity. Oops. Okay, good. Alright, now I should be able to easily do what I want to do. So set up. Need to go. Okay. Oops, no wait. Oops, I want to do this. Put these there and there. It really matters. Steel plates. Okay, so now this should be making better ammo. Oh wait, no, I messed up. Oh no. Wait. Did I just blow this? Oh, this needs also to get those ammos in there. Shoot, so this has to actually change. So those are gonna get charged up with like better ammo now. This one I'm gonna run down around here. Actually, I might be able to run it just like this. Oops. Cool. All right, so got a little ammo producing guys over here. These need power. Oh gosh. I'm gonna grab all this ammo. Oh, but these aren't getting stocked with good ammo. All right. Well, I'll figure this out later. All right. I'm gonna call it a night. I think we're good. All righty then. All right, everybody. I will see you later. Have a good one. Peace.